Good evening. I call to order this joint regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council and the Mayor of the City Council, acting as the successor agency to the redevelopment agency of the City of San Bernardino. At this time, I'd like to invite everyone to turn off their cell phones, and I'll invite Pastor Don Roth from the Rock Church to come forward to lead us in the invocation. Please arise.
Hello, everyone. Let's pray together. Father, we come to you tonight in the mighty name of Jesus. Lord, we're grateful that as we gather together in this place, Lord, that you are here. God, we know in your word that it says that all authority is given by God. And so, Father, we recognize, we respect, and honor those in authority over our land, God. We thank you for every man and woman who gives their time and their attention to this city, Lord, to this county, to this place, God. We thank you, Father, for Mayor Davis and the work that he has done while he's been in his office, God, and we just thank you, God, that he has done a good work here, and that, Lord, he will continue to use his influence, that he will continue to move forward into this next season by your grace, with goodness on his life and on his family. And God, as tonight we witness and we see what you're doing in this next season for our city, God, we bless each and every elected official and person that is taking office, God. We thank you, Lord, for what you're going to do in our land and in our city, God. We bless John Valdivia and others who are taking office tonight, God, and who are being sworn in. Father, we pray, Lord, for your grace to be upon them, your abilities, Lord, on their behalf, where they don't have the wisdom, where they don't have the knowledge and the understanding, that, God, you would make up the difference. Father, that every person that endeavors to do a good work for this place, God, that it would be given to them to see it through to the end. Lord, that they would have the wisdom, they'd have the resource, they would have the direction. Father, we pray, Lord, as it says in your word, that the streets would be made livable again. God, that there would be a restore of the breach. That, God, that this place would be that well-watered garden, that it would flourish, God. We ask on behalf of our city and our land, God, and our neighborhoods, our homes, our families, our communities, God, Lord, that you would bless this place, God. We thank you for giving us divine wisdom, Lord. We thank you for giving us leadership, that, God, that they will hear your voice and follow you, your will and your way, God, for our city, for our people, God. We thank you, Father God, that you bless every first responder and those that protect us as well, God. And Lord, we give you praise. We give you thanks, God. Lord, we give you thanks as well as many celebrations are going on in these coming days and weeks, God, that they would be especially blessed, God. We thank you, Father, for the Christmas season and Hanukkah and other things that are being celebrated around this time, God, for the joy of family and friends. And Lord, we see that as a blessing that comes down from above. And so, Father, we give you all of the thanks, all of the praise, all of the glory, and all of the honor. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pastor Roth. At this time, I will now invite Dominic Rodriguez to the podium to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Dominic is a fifth grader at the Norton Space and Learning Academy.
Please place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dominic. You may be seated. Before we go into the business portion and the swearing in, I would like to take a few minutes and to express my appreciation to all the city staff members who have contributed to the overcoming the many challenges we have faced together over the past 5 years. I am also very grateful for Evelyn Estrada, Erica Murphy, Chris Lopez, and Richard Tejeda for their dedication and commitment to San Bernardino and to my office. Their remarkable talents were demonstrated every day as they were called upon to manage many difficult assignments. Each year, they successfully organized our annual State of the City event that was enjoyed by all who attended. When I entered office, March 2014, we were plagued with a dysfunctional City Hall due to an untenable city charter, bankruptcy, and no clear direction or goals. Under my leadership, together with the City Council and many community leaders, we repealed the old, outmoded city charter. We established clearly defined goals and objectives and produced a $39 million general fund reserve versus a projected $45 million deficit in 2012. Although our level of service delivery is still not where we want it to be, it has improved significantly with many noticeable achievements. Fire response time has improved by approximately 40%. We've hired more police officers. Street cleaning has improved. Parks are being maintained. Potholes and street lights are repaired at a much faster rate, and our financial audit is current. Our 2018-2019 $46 million capital improvement plan is on target to complete projects at a much higher rate than has been achieved in more than a decade. Over 8,000 jobs have been added to our employment base, with 3,500 of them in the sphere of influence of our airport. In May 2015, we submitted to the bankruptcy court our recovery plan in support of the plan of adjustment to serve as a roadmap for San Bernardino's exit from bankruptcy and our fiscal recovery. Included in our recovery plan, which was approved and confirmed by the court in June 2017, were the operating practices of good government and our 7 city goals formulated by the Community Strategic Planning Core Team. On April 17, 2017, the Council passed Ordinance Number 1438, incorporating many of the provisions of the operating practices of good governance in our municipal code of conduct. This code of conduct is representative of best practices of most cities that operate under the modern council-manager form of government. The citizens of San Bernardino overwhelmingly voted to repeal the old archaic city charter in favor of the new charter, which established our current council-manager form of government. The new charter has established the pathway for the revitalization and prosperity of San Bernardino by eliminating the fundamental governing flaw that impeded San Bernardino's progress. I encourage the new council members and mayor to become familiar with the recovery plan and the plan of adjustment approved by the bankruptcy court in order to continue the progress we have achieved under its provisions. Additionally, I strongly encourage their adherence to the adopted municipal code of conduct. Our current updated 10-year financial model indicates we have the ability to successfully sustain a healthy reserve by exercising prudent financial oversight and adherence to the guiding principles outlined in our bankruptcy recovery plan. I am pleased with the progress we have achieved over these past 5 years, and I thank the City Council for the many difficult decisions they have made to help get us to where we are today. I look forward to the continued revitalization ahead. The new council and mayor will face new challenges, but I feel they are in a much stronger financial and operational position today versus the conditions that existed 5 years ago. I also encourage the new council members to exercise independent, objective judgment based on the merits of the issues presented and refrain from political gamesmanship. Your decisions should be based on what is in the best interest of the city as a whole, not just your respective wards, recognizing that you make decisions as a body, not individually. You work for and are responsible to the residents of San Bernardino and must do your homework in order to be prepared for city council meetings. You are also responsible for treating staff respectfully and not interfering with the city manager's administrative responsibilities or undermining her authority. Our city manager's appointment was unanimously supported by the City Council and myself. She has worked effectively to rebuild City Hall's capacity by improving operational systems throughout the organization. We need her continued leadership and direction. Yesterday, Councilman Charette and myself, together with the other San Bernardino International Airport Commissioners, approved a lease agreement with Hillwood for development of 97 acres at our airport. When executed, this development project will build a 658,000 square foot air cargo facility that will accommodate up to 26 daily flights. The project is valued at over $300 million at full build-out and will generate over 3,800 new jobs. This is a major milestone for our airport that was originally conceived nearly 20 years ago and will create economic development for many years to come. It has been an honor and privilege to serve as your mayor for the past 5 years. I especially want to thank my wife for her support. And the many sacrifices she made on behalf of myself and our city. Together, we shared many sleepless nights. And many hours on our knees, seeking guidance and counsel from our Father in heaven as we led our city out of bankruptcy. Thank you. Thank you. This time, I will turn the time over to our city clerk, who will now announce the certification of our election.
Mayor and Council, you have a staff report explaining what the background was on this, but just really quickly, we had an incredible voter turnout of 44.15% in November, and that was 40,344 voters out of approximately 97,000. And so the resolution recites the facts of that election and declares the results and other matters as provided by law. So let me...
Move for approval.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
And this will be a voice vote because we've already set up the laptops for the next council. Ms. Marquez?
Yes.
Mr. Barrios? Mr. Valdivia?
Yes.
Mr. Charette?
Yes.
Mr. Nickel?
Yes.
Ms. Richard?
Yes.
Mr. Mulvihill?
Yes.
The item passes 6-0.
Thank you. This time, we will begin with the administration of the oaths. I believe the first swearing in will be of the Honorable Theodore Sanchez, First Ward Council Member. The administration of the oath will be administered by Gigi Hanna. Please invite you to the podium.
Repeat after me. I, Theodore Sanchez,
I, Theodore Sanchez,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support and defend the Constitution of the United States
to support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
to bear true faith and allegiance
to bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
This is for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. So I'm going to only take a couple moments to speak to you guys directly. I want to express my heartfelt appreciation to the people of the First Ward for the confidence they have shown in electing me as their representative on the City Council. I will work every day to continue to earn their trust. And to the people of San Bernardino as a whole, I believe that tonight is the beginning of a new chapter in our city. The voters have spoken loudly and clearly in November that we want positive change in our city leaders. Our community is tired of excuses and failed promises, and we have demanded results. To my City Council colleagues, I look forward to working with you and with our new mayor, but we must never forget that we work for the people of San Bernardino. Addressing the needs and the concerns of our residents should always be our city government's highest priority. I am honored to serve our community, and I am looking forward to being part of a new generation of leadership in San Bernardino's future success. Thank you.
Councilman Theodore Sanchez will be filling the seat of First Ward Council Member. I truly want to thank Councilmember Marquez for the efforts that she's put into her calling over the last 8 years. We will now invite the Honorable Patrick J. Morris, retired judge of the Superior Court. Excuse me. We will now invite Gil Navarro to come forward to issue the oath to the Honorable Sandra Ibarra, Second Ward Council Member.
I, Sandra Ibarra,
I, Sandra Ibarra,
do solemnly swear or affirm
I solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and to the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will
and that I will
and faithfully discharge
and
well and faithfully discharge
the duties
the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Gracias. Good evening, everybody. This is Sandra Ibarra. As a disclaimer, I will not always look like this for council meetings. It's a special occasion. I would like to thank first and foremost our Father, Lord. I believe He put me in San Bernardino for a purpose, for a reason. And I found the reason to be serving the people who live and work in the city of San Bernardino. Once again, my platform was public safety, community engagement, and the beautification of our city. Until we achieve those three goals, then our city will prosper once again. I would like to thank all of my neighbors and people who live in the 2nd Ward, 4th Ward, 7th Ward, all over the city who supported me throughout my campaign. Most of my supporters are on the 2nd row present right now, and I thank you all for every little bit of grain that you gave to support me during my campaign. Thank you so much, everybody. And I'm here to serve all of you. Thank you.
Councilmember Ibarra will fill the seat for 2nd Ward Council Member, replacing Benito Barrios. Thank you, Benito, for your service. Welcome, Councilmember Sanchez and Councilmember Ibarra. I've had the opportunity to serve and have Fred Charette near my side, served as Mayor Pro Tem. He's done an outstanding job for our community and truly is a soldier on behalf of the citizens of San Bernardino, and I'm grateful for the opportunity I've had to serve closely with him and not always agree with Fred. It's not easy to show him the error of his ways. But he's provided a great service, and at this time I invite the Honorable Patrick Morris, retired judge of the Superior Court, to come forward to the podium to administer the oath of office once again to Councilmember Charette.
I'm waiting on my significant other who's going to hold the Bible. All right? I'm going to make a little announcement. Please. She didn't get my text to be ready to come up here. Well, maybe she laughed. I've asked that my fiancee, Chris Bissett, hold the Bible for me as I'm sworn in tonight. Chris and I go back a long, long way, and we plan to be married in 2019. Congratulations.
Well, Fred, just one second. There are a number of new chairs being occupied at this table, but yours is still warm.
Yes.
And you can stay there if you follow this oath.
All right, sir.
Raise your right hand. I, Fred Charette,
I, Fred Charette,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and of California
and of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and of California,
and of California.
that I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any purpose of evasion,
without any purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to engage in endeavor.
upon which I am about to engage and endeavor.
Congratulations, Fred.
Thank you, Judge. Mayor, thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you. Gigi says this is another one for my collection. I'm glad to have, I think this makes my fourth. I am pleased to be here. The mayor said it very well. The Mayor Kerry Davis said it very well. The hard work that we have achieved over the last 4 or 5 years under his leadership and under the current council and outgoing council members. I'm pleased that I was reelected and that I am going to be able to be a part of seeing the efforts that we've put in over the last 5 years come to fruition. I congratulate those that were just elected. I look forward to working with them as we move forward and really work hard to keep this city on track. I believe that it is on track. I believe a lot of the hard work has been done, but I also believe that we are fragile and that we must be very vigilant in our duties leading this community as we continue on a path to recovery and full sustainability. I've been honored to be elected 4 times, and I promise not only the 4th Ward, the people of the 4th Ward, but all the people of San Bernardino that I will continue to do my very best to serve you and keep you in mind as the people that we work for. Thank you very much.
At this time, I invite the Honorable John Pacheco, Judge of the Superior Court, to come forward to administer the oath of office to the Honorable John Valdivia, Mayor.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, John Valdivia,
I, John Valdivia,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
and defend
and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will truly bear true faith
bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the United States
to the United States
of America
of America
and the Constitution of the United States of the State of California.
and the
And the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely
That I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well,
That I will well
faithfully discharge
faithfully discharge
the duties upon which
the duties upon which
I'm about to enter.
I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is with both humility and pride that I take the oath of office to be San Bernardino's new mayor. I want to thank my family for their incredible support and patience throughout this long election process. My wife, Beth, and my kids. I'd like to thank my supporters for their encouragement and for their hard work on my behalf. And most importantly, I want to thank the people of San Bernardino for their trust in bestowing upon me the leadership of our great city. I'd also like to congratulate Councilmember Sandra Ibarra, Councilman Ted Sanchez, Councilman Charette. I look forward to working with our newly seated council members, and also our existing current elected officials. The years past have brought a sense of distrust and apathy to our community because the city government was not responsive to the voice of the community. Those days are over. Now is the time to harness the hope of our future and bring about change, real change. And real change looks like a city government guided by the wants and needs of its community. Tonight, with these newly elected council members and our council members, I speak for all the present elected officials on this platform and renew our commitment and accountability to you, the citizens, and our business community. Under this administration, we want to hear your concerns, and we want to implement policy that directly impacts and improves your quality of life. We will account for every pothole, every unmaintained street, and every unaddressed issues to bring about results. We will employ innovative solutions, and we will place a higher priority on public safety programs. San Bernardino has gone through some very hard times, but I believe that this night marks the start of a bright new future for our community. San Bernardino has enjoyed an incredible history of joyous achievements through prosperous times, as well as sorrow through our most challenging times. Our ability to stay united and move our city forward have always been predicated on our ability to find the commonalities that bind us together and build on our sense of purpose. In November, the people voted for change to support our vision of growth for our community, the vibrancy of our neighborhoods, and the prosperity of our future. As your mayor, I humbly accept the challenge to lead our community to fulfill our incredible potential as we take this bold step to become a city we all will be proud to call home. Tonight, you will have a new mayor and a city council who are dedicated and focused to making city government more accountable, more responsive, more accessible. That's right, more accountable, more responsive, and more accessible to our residents. You'll have a new mayor and a city council who will not make excuses or accept them. A new mayor and city council who will listen to the people and take action to address your concerns. A new mayor and city council who understand that we work for the people of San Bernardino and that we will hold your city government accountable for results. A new mayor and city council who are committed to making the fundamental policy changes needed to rebuild San Bernardino's economic prosperity, to restore a sense of dignity and a safe community for our residents, and renew the promise of a better life for our families. You elected me to be a hands-on leader, not a caretaker, a hands-on leader. And that's what I will commit to do. As your mayor, I will pledge to be your voice, your strong advocate, and your fighter here at City Hall. Reforming our city government requires both bold vision and bold leadership. In the weeks and months ahead, I will work with the City Council to adopt some policy changes necessary for our community's success and outcomes. Some of these changes will be easy and some will not. But all of our changes will be developed with the full participation of San Bernardino residents. The road to prosperity requires a results-oriented city government that is focused on providing cost-effective services within our community. At City Hall, I will work within the limits of our city charter to achieve these goals. If our charter needs to be changed, then I won't hesitate to ask the voters of San Bernardino to change it. This election was also a turning point in bringing some new generation to our city council. As mayor, I'll be looking to appoint fresh voices to our boards and commissions, residents and business owners who will bring a vast diversity to our city government and new ideas for improving San Bernardino. I don't believe San Bernardino can sacrifice its way to prosperity. We need greater revenues, not deeper budget cuts. That's why I'll be reaching out to regional and international stakeholders to attract new businesses and investment capital in our community. Next month, I'm visiting China at the request of local Chinese officials. I'm hopeful that this visit will begin a process of bringing manufacturing jobs and businesses revenues here. I believe that our airport and transit access can make San Bernardino a desired destination for international trade, cargo, and hauling. Finally, friends, let's unite. Let's band together. Let's put the swords down, and let's get to work. Together, let's overcome bureaucracy. Let's fix our streets and make this community that we can feel safe and comfortable in. Government takes time, but it does not take forever. Thank you for the privilege of being your mayor. With your support, I will continue the charge of bringing our city into prosperity and long-term sustainability. Thank you.
Well, this is a new feeling to be your mayor, and it's a great honor to serve people. I want to also, at this time, I'm asking Miss Lavinia and my son Andrew. We're going to have a musical selection by my son Andrew. He'll join us on the piano, after which we'll break and recess for a light reception. And we welcome all of you to join us out in the foyer for about a 15 to 20-minute break. But at this time, let's enjoy some music from Andrew Valdivia. You know, that was a recovery like dad on election night. Boy, that was good, Andrew. So proud of you, son. That was a great recovery. Please join us in the gallery there in the foyer. We're going to have about a 20-minute reception. We welcome you and thank you.
It was made by Mr. Sanchez. It was seconded by Ms. Ibarra, and it was for Ms. Richard to be Mayor Pro Tem.
Very well.
Please push your buttons.
Please push your buttons. Call for the question, please.
Do you know?
It just says mover.
Mr. Mayor, on the substitute motion, the motion for Ms. Richard to be Mayor Pro Tem was made by Mr. Sanchez, the second by Ms. Ibarra, and the item passes 5-1 with Mr. Charette voting no.
Very well. I'd like to recognize for the 2019 legislative year, I salute the election of Mayor Pro Tem Basine Richard. I always look forward to working with Basine. She is always a dear friend, and I was at her Christmas party this past weekend, and it was a joy to see her and her family. So we wish you the best in this productive year, and we're looking forward to work with you. All right, moving on to our presentations, we call for our Chamber of Commerce representative. Are there any representatives here for Chamber of Commerce? If you would, please come to the podium, the public comment.
Just to point out that you have certificates of recognition from Assemblywoman Eloise Reyes' office. They dropped them off and asked me to hand them out to you, so just wanted to do that while they're...
And also through the chair, may I suggest and ask that we turn on the house lights? It's almost impossible for us to see anything out. Well, it is. We can't see anything out there. And it was okay, I think, with the ceremony going on, but I think now it would be appropriate to have the house lights on.
Thank you for accommodating us, and we thank all of our Sturgis Theater staff members for making these accommodations. Isn't this beautiful? We thank you. We thank you, Sturgis. Madam President, are you ready? Chamber of Commerce.
Madam President is not ready, and I apologize for this, but I will use this opportunity to congratulate all of you and wish you the best of the next year. We really don't have anything except Martin Luther King Day, of course, which is coming up in January. And the Chamber has been closed for the month of December, but we will be open the 2nd of January. We've been having regular coffee clatches, and we will be very active in January. So since you made it almost impossible for me not to come up, I apologize again, but we will be here at the next meeting, and we will have, I'm sure, a boatload of things for you to participate in. But good luck and the best of everything. Thank you.
All right. At this time, we will proceed into our public comment section, and I am recognizing individuals.
You will recognize them both, the ones on the blue or for items not on the agenda, the ones on yellow or for items on the agenda. It's up to you which you take first.
All right. We're going to go items on the agenda. Andres Garcia, if you'd make your way to the podium, please. Followed by Nicholas Cataldo, followed by Dorothy Garcia. If you would please follow up or line up here to expedite your comment process. Thank you. Mr. Garcia, recognized for 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Andres Garcia. Before I address the council, I'd like to congratulate our new office holders. I hope you've been made to feel welcome, and I wish you all successful terms in office. Today I'm here to touch on 3 topics. The first being the importance of arts and culture for the city of San Bernardino. The second being the lack of representation and advocacy for the arts with reference to the Arts and Historical Preservation Commission. And the third is to express my support for the Breezeway Arts Block program. San Bernardino, as you know, is a rich community with art history that spans decades. From historic Route 66 and automotive-inspired art to Chicano, indigenous, and more recently, contemporary art. I'm here to echo my support for the Arts Block grant and lend my voice to a cause that I consider essential to the beautification of our city, as Councilwoman Ibarra mentioned earlier. I grew up here in San Bernardino. I was born at St. Bernardines, and I attended Pacific and San Gregorio High School. As a child, I was hindered by asthma, so on days that I couldn't attend school, I went with my mom to work in the Veneer Tower, where she worked as a clerk in the Economic Community Development Department. I spent most of my childhood getting to know the downtown area, wandering the halls of the Veneer Tower, finding all the candy bowls at every desk, eventually stumbling into the stationery closet, and discovering my love for pens, paper, and markers. That interest grew and led me to my current occupation as a graphic designer and social media director. The reason why I'm here, most importantly, is I understand that there's a vacancy on the Arts Commission. And I also understand as a result of the new charter, the Arts Commission was combined with the Historical Preservation Commission. I acknowledge that you expressed opposition to that combination of those, Mr. Mayor, if I'm correct. But I'm just here to express my support and to basically bolster the idea of having a proactive, aggressive outreach program for arts and culture here in San Bernardino, because it's important to the identity of the entire city. We live in a very diverse city now, with an influx of a lot of different people coming from the west inland, and the Inland Empire in and of itself in San Bernardino is on the rise. And pretty soon we're going to have a need for a big art sector, and we're going to have a need for culturally inclusive events and programs that offer the entire community as a whole to engage and get to know each other on a more personal level, on a grassroots level. So I'm here today just to express my support for the Breezeway Arts Block program and the grant, and just so we could have the best San Bernardino possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next public speaker is Nick Cataldo. Sir, welcome. You're recognized. Item number 25, item on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Basically, what my purpose for being here is echoing what the person who just came up just before me. It's about the arts, promoting arts and culture in downtown San Bernardino, that Breeze Walk, which is off of Court Street near the Heritage Building. I've lived in San Bernardino for 52 years. I'm not a native, but I've been here long enough to be close to a native. I've seen San Bernardino, go from a thriving city to a downward spiral, and I see it improving, but slowly, and I'm hoping that the next 4 years will be tremendously so. For any community to be a success, we need to have a strong downtown. We also have a whole lot of effort from a whole lot of people, citizens, as well as the city council, everyone. Everyone needs to be together on this. And we have to find a way to draw people downtown. From the 1990s, when this Route 66 rendezvous started, The one weekend of the year when people went downtown and it seemed safe was when the Route 66 rendezvous came downtown, because there were about 200,000 people there. Well, we're not going to get 200,000 people every day or every weekend, but we can start by trying to get more people down there. How do we get people downtown? A big part of that is culture. People like culture. People are attracted to history, to art, to music. There's so many avenues that make up what culture is. And downtown San Bernardino is a prime spot. We have a nucleus of historic buildings from the 1920s. We also have a couple that date back to the 1880s. Not everything is going to be saved, granted, but we have some buildings that are really sturdy and can be used for repurpose. So not that we want every building to be a museum, but it can be repurposed in some way. And right now, bringing art down to the breezeway, which I noticed last week we had a little walk down the breezeway, it's a real start. So I'd like to encourage the mayor and city council to accept this proposal for this grant for infusing art and culture in downtown San Bernardino. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. The next speaker is Dorothy Garcia, item number 25. Your item is on the agenda. Ms. Garcia, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Congratulations, all of you who are newly elected, and we know that this is going to be very a good city council. I'm speaking on item 25, which is the approval of the application for a grant from the California Arts Council. And some of us have talked for a long time about the renaissance of downtown, and have tried to do some things and have not perhaps been as successful as we wanted to be. This proposal actually can cause a renaissance downtown, with the arts taking the lead, but not necessarily promoting only arts businesses. This is a proposal that will really revive what's going on. And so something that we can really look forward to. The collaboration is what I think is really important. Arts Connection, which is the County Arts Council, is writing the grant. The financial administration is going through the University Enterprise Corporation. And you have, obviously, Mr. Cataldo and I are here from the Arts and Historical Preservation Commission, which is struggling to get started. And yes, we do need some additional members to be appointed. It's also a collaboration with business, with development, and so something that has needed to happen for a long time is about to happen if this grant is approved. So the first step, obviously, is for you to vote yes to allow us to use a certain amount of money from the Cultural Development Fund, to allow us to use some in-kind services from city staff, and to also provide for collaboration with other businesses in the area. Thank you very much, and I urge you to vote yes.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. The next speaker is David Friedman, followed by Samaya Thomas, followed by Andrew Thompson. If you would please line up. Mr. Friedman, welcome, sir. You're recognized for 3 minutes, item number 25.
Thank you for allowing me to speak in front of you. Congratulations to the new city council members and mayor coming in. My name is David Friedman. I am a resident to San Bernardino, CSUSB graduate, real estate investor, community leader, and recently my girlfriend and I are opening a high-end tea and coffee shop called Viva La Boba in the breezeway of San Bernardino. Until I started investing in the breezeway, there was nothing there. There was one attorney and a paintball shop. And now in 1 year we have 3 new businesses, and there's another 2 on the way. And I'm standing here today to ask the city and its representatives to support item 25, the Breezeway Art Block Grant. This grant isn't just about funding art. This grant will give residents a reason to spend time and money in downtown San Bernardino. As more people come, safety will increase. More businesses will open. And through this grant, we can create a positive environment for people to come and spend their money in the city of San Bernardino instead of elsewhere. I have already had the pleasure of working with Jennifer, leader of the Arts Connection, who's proposing this grant. And I can truly say that she cares about the city of San Bernardino, its residents, and, mark my words, she will help to put this city on the map when it comes to arts and community building. I really believe in everyone who has come up to speak about this arts grant. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I hope that you guys will consider approving it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Friedman. Our next speaker is Samaya Thompson, followed by Andrew Thompson, followed by Robert Jacka. Ms. Thomas, welcome.
Hi, hello, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Sania Thomas, and I am a resident of San Bernardino and lifelong resident of the IE. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters and San Bernardino Generation Now. Tonight, I am here to support the Arts Connection and the campaign to bring art, life, and business into downtown San Bernardino. My work and life is established in this region and the city, so I want to see a better San Bernardino like all of you here tonight. I am up here tonight because I have been fortunate to connect with community leaders and business entrepreneurs such as David Friedman and Jennifer, who believe in the great potential San Bernardino has to offer, and they have the passion and the knowledge to do something about it. I am in full favor and support of the grant proposal for item number 25, the San Bernardino Breezeway Art Block Creative Placement Making Grant. Why? Because we as residents and community members need this grant to help fund a passion project to revitalize downtown San Bernardino. Your support of this grant proposal will help fund and catapult a much-needed renaissance, as well put by earlier by Dottie Garcia. Our city is in need of a consistent and thriving cultural hub that promotes safety and family-oriented activities based around culture and the arts in the downtown area. I hope you are also in full favor and support of the grant proposal and fully realize and appreciate the many benefits of accepting this proposal. This will be a small but significant decision that you can make in San Bernardino's future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Andrew Thompson, followed by Robert Jacka, followed by Jorge Heredia. Welcome, Mr. Thompson.
Well, thank you. Congratulations, Mayor Valdivia and the rest of the council members. I want to also speak in favor of item 25. My name is Andrew Thompson. I am a local artist and educator. I work at Cal State San Bernardino, Chaffey, and the University of La Verne. I began the Little Gallery of San Bernardino in downtown in the Breezeway after meeting David. After working with Jenny Keynes prior, the person who also led Arts Connection prior to that, I started this gallery because I believe in the arts. I believe in the local arts in this area, Inland Empire, San Bernardino County specifically. And I know the history of it. I know the vitality that is here that is often not spotlighted. And I have the experience and ability from living in San Francisco, from working in New York. This is not unlike South of Market in San Francisco in the late 90s. This is not unlike Bushwick, Brooklyn in the early 2000s. This area has the possibility to be revitalized through the arts. And I believe that we, as a team, can collectively do this, and we just need your support. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Heredia? Mr. Heredia, you're recognized, sir. Jorge Heredia. Oh, my bad.
Robert Jacka.
Thank you.
My apologies, sir. Mr. Jacka, welcome.
Thank you. Congratulations, Mayor.
Thank you.
My name is Robert Jack, and I stand in support of the Arts Council effort to bring culture to San Bernardino. For the last 40 years, I have supported and participated in events which have tried to create a positive image of our city. San Bernardino has a number of locations which provide cultural and interactive creative outlets, including Cal State San Bernardino at the Fullerton Museum, the San Bernardino Valley College with the Gresham Gallery, the Garcia Art Center, which is just up the road here a little bit, and the San Bernardino Art Association, as well as the Symphony Orchestra. So San Bernardino does have a rich culture of different things happening, but the one thing we do not have is a center. We do not have something binding us together. And if you wander in the downtown area, most of the time after 5 p.m. on a Friday, it looks like a ghost town, only without the character of Calico. What I would like to see is that I would like to see the city support, and I realize that every time somebody comes down and you have to open up purse strings, that you wrench your hands and you have to say, well, I don't know if I can actually help or do anything about this. But a few years ago, when we had studios on Benedict Avenue, the city provided buses, they provided some outlets to take, and they drove people around from a studio to different events at Cal State San Bernardino and the Valley College. And it provided people with an outlet to sit there and go and see what was happening in our area. The Breezeway is a central focus point, but there are also other really nice buildings in the area, such as the Harris Building, and other avenues that could be used that could actually support things like glass-blowing, ceramics, music, dance, and all of the other arts. I hope that the city does look at itself and can find in its heart to open up their purse strings to the arts in San Bernardino.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Heredia. Mr. Heredia, you're recognized for 3 minutes. I apologize about the confusion there. Item number 25. Welcome.
Hello. First of all, congratulations to the new council. I look forward to seeing the work that you do, and hopefully we can all work together as a community and to make San Bernardino a better community for everyone and its residents. And so I'm here to support the Arts Connection and the Creative Communities grant application, and I'm here to implore you and that you support them as well. I know that sometimes when you're out in the community, it's difficult to get people organized, but they're doing the work, and I believe that you have good people behind this application, and it would be saddening to see their work kind of be in vain. So I do believe that with your support, this project would be successful and also important to the revitalization of the city. And so I am here to show my support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to our next speakers, if you filled out a blue slip. And also, I want to encourage you, if you'd like to speak and you haven't been recognized, please, we have slips available and inform our city clerk. Moving on to Greg and Angie, item not on the agenda, followed by Patricia Sachs, followed by Robert Porter. If you would please make your way down. Thank you. Again, Greg and Angie, Patricia Sachs, and Robert Porter. Welcome, Greg and Angie.
Well,
you have 3 minutes. You're recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Congratulations to everyone up there. And we've been dealing with San Bernardino for over 20 years, and with the people that live here. And I appreciate the whole art culture and everything that's going on here. But we've been dealing with the homeless, the people who have no place to be, that are lost, that unfortunately we had a church that the people who were dealing with us at the time that were before you made it impossible for us to take care of the homeless. They made it totally impossible. Anything we did, anything how we helped them, they would put fines on the church. We personally didn't take salaries. We just try to make a way for these people to have a place, and try to get help from the city of San Bernardino, which we got none. What we got was a lot of fines, and we have a $100,000 fine on our church right now that we cannot even sell because they refuse to tell us where to go and how to get it off, which they told us if you found someone to buy it, that we would they would take it off. We found someone to buy it, but they refused to take it off. They refused to give us anyone to talk to. So we're trying to help the people. We want to stay here. I want to stay here. I want to put the money back into San Bernardino and back into helping the people that are just out there looking for something, okay? And that's pretty much what we're trying to do is get this lien off the church. So if anybody could help us with that, we would appreciate that.
Ms. City Manager?
Mr. Mayor, we're going to make sure that we get there, and certainly you have the contact information, but I'll have staff contact them because there is a process to have liens removed from the property, and so we'll follow up and make sure that they receive good information about how to do that, and then bring that back to the council.
Thank you.
As needed.
And that's exactly what we've already gone through that. We have already gone through the office several times. It does exactly what they've told us each and every time.
I'm going to work with the city attorney's office and help you through that.
So we have until March. If we don't get it did until March, that property will be turned over and we will not have it anymore.
I'm going to deal with it before March.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Staff member, please see a staff member and she'll gather your information.
Okay.
Moving on to the next public speaker, Ms. Sachs, Patricia Sachs, if you would please, followed by Robert Porter, followed by Carmel Rowe. Ms. Sachs, welcome.
Thank you. I'm dressed in our newest outfit for Primetime Carolers, and I did wear it for Mayor Kerry Davis going out because I know he loves music. He's involved with the Guthrie Museum of Sheet Music, and we use sheet music in all our shows. Primetime Carolers is a 30 years existence in San Bernardino. It's an outlet for seniors throughout the Inland Empire. We prepare 30 to 45-minute musical programs and have performed for organizations such as retirement, assisted living facilities, senior centers, hospitals, community clubs, and church groups. Are you a senior who loves to sing? See, I wanted to ask Mayor Davis that now that he has free time to come and sing. We're appearing, they did 20 gigs last year, and we've already done all our patriotic, and we're in our Christmas ones now. We're singing tomorrow in Loma Linda. I think it's interesting that I'm speaking tonight when they're talking about all the arts. Music is the heart of San Bernardino. I mean, the Latino community, my goodness, I live in Muscoy now. They sing at night outside. It's wonderful. And music, if you're a senior and you're not singing, see, I go to a church where our choir is up there. I can go up, but I can't come down. My leg is, I can't come down. So I joined Primetime Carolers, and I just want to promote it to say, I'm going to leave this here because it tells all of you are part of associations, Rotary clubs, whatever. You need entertainment of people who are really dedicated to this community, getting our seniors out and singing, and you cannot believe how great the voices are. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Dawn, if you would please get the information from her. Ms. Sachs, thank you for your involvement in our community. We appreciate it. I'd love to partner up with you. This is a great opportunity to bring joy to our residents. Thank you. That's why Dawn's going to follow you right now. You bet. Absolutely. Robert Porter. Mr. Porter, welcome.
Welcome, Mayor, Council, good people. I've been coming in here over 5 years. Wow. Longer than a normal term for mayor, but I've been coming in here a long time, and I saw the transition of the last mayor, and I'm like trying to be positive, right? Because it's important to be positive. So I was thinking, what was the best thing that I kind of liked out of the last council and mayor? And I want to thank them for the legalization of cannabis. because I think it's a move forward for our city, and I want to thank him for being there and making sure that cannabis is brought to the forefront and the discrimination ends against it. Because cannabis is an important part of our community, and it can have a place as long as we give it a chance. Secondly, I'd like to thank the council members that left, and they did a great job. Benito Barrios was a good man. He would do things. He would go out of his way to help me and help others around me, and I saw him do it, and he really did try hard. Virginia Marquez is a nice lady. She really does go out of her way and loves San Bernardino. Sandra Ibarra, thank you so much for running for office. It's a breath of fresh air to see someone up there who's heavily involved in the community, cares about our neighborhoods, and really gets involved. Mr. Sanchez, I don't know you very well, but I hope to change that, and what I've seen so far is you're stepping up to the plate and you're all ready to rumble. So thank you very much, sir. Mr. Charette, congratulations on your win. But one thing I would hope you would work for, because you're not going to be in that position forever, is that you would help the county figure out a way to make these election recounts available to the normal people. When it's over $20,000 for a recount, that's like someone's education. It's a car. That's a lot of money in San Bernardino. So we need to work to make that recount affordable for anybody who needs it if it's within 7 votes. Mr. Nickel, Bessin, Mojaville, City Manager, Assistant City Manager, thank you very much. I'm ready to work with you guys if you guys are ready to work with me. I want to focus on the arts. I went to their art walk the other day. They had historians, artists, they had Green Shack providing the food. That was a good event, right? We need more events like that in our city. But don't forget our history. We have an incredible history to offer, and if we get our history out, we can bring the community together. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Carmel Rowe, followed by Ana Cervantes, followed by Luis Ojeda. Ms. Rowe, welcome.
It's a happy day in San Bernardino today. So I just wanted to let you know we're going to put down the daggers. We're going to give you all a little chance, and we're going to see how you guys roll. So, Mayor Valdivia, I am proud of how this meeting is running already today, and I appreciate it, and I'm sure all the people appreciate it. Sandra, I love to see you up there. You look so pretty. And Teddy, well, my favorite ward in the city is actually Ward 1. That's where my heart is. That's where I spend my life. And and I would like to work with you and be your friend and hope that we get Ward 1 off the ground, because if Ward 1 gets off the ground, the rest of the city gets off the ground. My heart, Ward 1, my whole life, 23 years in business. My dad, 40. I wanted to also touch on item number 25. I support the arts. I support the Freemans. I'd like you guys to vote no on item 12 and 13. And on item number 28, the public hearing, my kid has to go to volleyball, so I'm just going to address that right now. I'd appreciate if you guys took a little more time and you guys investigated that a little more, since we do have new council members coming in today. The apartments across the street don't really run all that well, and if they are owned by the same person, I think you're actually hurting downtown more than you're helping it, and maybe you guys should try creating home ownership instead of apartments in the downtown area so that you can create the walking traffic to the arts. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Congratulations. Congratulations, Bessin, Mayor Pro Tem. Yay! And Henry, I look forward to you not having to be the lone voice, and I look forward to those 5-2 no vetoes. Bye.
Thank you, Ms. Rowe. Ms. Cervantes, Ana Cervantes, she here? Followed by Mr. Ojeda. Mr. Ojeda. Welcome. Welcome, Ana.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and congratulations. Congratulations to the council. I feel so much positive energy this evening, and I feel this is going to be an amazing start to the next 4 years. So I am here in support of item number 25, the arts block here in San Bernardino. I am a San Bernardino native resident. I was born and raised here. This is home to me and to everybody here. This is home, and we take great pride in the city. This is something that is unlike any other city that I've been able to feel and be a part of. And this is why we call it home, because it brings so much pride, and it is our home to us. As an expressive arts instructor for the past 2 years at the San Bernardino Valley Community Star Center, I've felt the amazing power that art has and to heal an individual from one individual to the next and to unify a community. I feel that beyond beautifying the city, art will be the unifying factor for our downtown community to be able to revitalize it. As we've seen in the art walk that was held last week, we've had over 50 people in attendance at that meeting. It was provided by the Arts Connection and so many other individuals that are invested and very passionate in this endeavor. We see so much untapped potential in the city of San Bernardino, its rich history, its lively community. We just need that one factor to bring it all together, and that is the arts. I think that we all firmly believe that through this arts endeavor, we can bring a revitalization to the city, to the downtown, and to the city as a whole. We have such a rich history, a diverse people, and we just need to represent it. So I thank you for your time, and I thank you for support in action number 25. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Ojeda. Mr. Ojeda, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations, everyone. It's been a roller coaster for some of you guys. Almost, no, not there, not yet. 1 vote, 2 votes, right, Mr. Fred? But you made it, and I'm glad that all of you guys that run for office made it. Everyone worked hard for it. So, and I really like what I see. I see a well-balanced council, and our government works in checks and balances, and I'm glad for that. So, and I wish everybody the best of luck. And I've been in this country for a little less than 30 years, and it's been great. It's been great for me, and I'm very thankful. I have put a lot of effort and hard work, and I have lived in different parts of the United States, but I never felt that I belonged anywhere until I landed in this city, and I made it my own. And I feel that many people feel the same. I see many groups that are getting together. We're connected with each other. The other day I happened to have the opportunity to go to the art gallery that they're starting, and it was an amazing energy, full of young people, full of entrepreneurs. It was so amazing to see over 50 people walking around downtown around 7 o'clock. I've never seen it since I've been here for over a year. So, but the change has been here for a while, and for the new elected, officials, we're gonna hold everybody accountable on our alliances to the people. And we don't want to confront or fight with anybody. We want to join together and work as a community. And because maybe we have different, ideas of how to do it, but at the end of the day, we need to be smart and be reasonable. And maybe some of you guys have good ideas, and maybe you don't. But we all have to communicate and work together. So we've been working hard to clean the streets of San Bernardino. I'm the founder of the We Are the Change, San Bernardino Volunteers. And I'm glad that I've seen the change from the city elected officials, as well as the city manager and her staff. And the light has worked. I don't know if you have noticed. And I appreciate the help of all of you guys. And we all have ideas, and I hope that we can work together, and I'm willing to be part of that change. But at the same time, I'm going to call you guys out when I see that something is not right. So thank you very much, and I wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you. Council members, audience, what I love about Mr. Ojeda is he is
Sweat equity. It's all about real results. I appreciate you, Luis, what you do for our community. Been out there in alleyways cleaning up alongside of you, and your group is just awesome. So I salute you and thank you. Good. All right.
Mayor, point of order. If I may.
You're recognized. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we know this is my first city council meeting, as is Ted Theodore Sanchez. And I do have several concerns on the agenda, on the consent calendar. And I also had questions and concerns about our city manager's contract, and I wanted to see if we can ask some questions about that contract and possibly take action on it on closed session.
Thank you, Councilmember Ibarra. Councilmember Ibarra has moved to take action on an item not appearing on the posted agenda. Pursuant to Government Section 54954.2b2, the City Council may take such action with a vote by 2/3 of the council members to place it on the agenda. The question presented before our council is whether to add an item to closed session to review the city manager's contract. Is there any discussion?
Excuse
Do I
me,
hear a
Mayor,
second?
may I be recognised? Mayor, members of the Council.
Yes,
That
Mr.
provision of the Brown Act is in place for items or events that came to the attention of the Council after the posting of the agenda. I'm unaware of any it's a late-breaking exception. I'm unaware of any late-breaking information that would prompt that. But I'm open to hearing that finding.
What is your legal opinion, sir?
My concern is that I've not heard any facts that would constitute information that came to the attention of the Council after the posting of the agenda.
And the reason you wouldn't have received that information is because I just got sworn in. I wouldn't have had a chance to provide any of that concern before the council meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you.
I believe it's not necessarily the opinion coming from a council member who's been sworn in after the agenda. It's the facts that warrant the closed session. What we could do, though, an option available to the council, is to post an agenda for a special meeting. We could do that as soon as tomorrow for a special meeting to be held on Friday, potentially, with 24 hours notice. It's appropriate under the Brown Act. We could post an appropriate agenda item, but would be, in my opinion, protected under the Brown Act. So I would recommend, rather than attempting to act tonight with some uncertainty over the legality of that late-breaking exception, I would recommend, if Council's amenable to this, the recommended action by Councilmember Ibarra, that you simply direct staff to agendize a special meeting for either Friday, or you could agendize it next week at some point.
So what I'd like to do is thank you, Ms. Ibarra, for bringing that to our attention. Thank you, Mr. Price, for your comments. I'd like to, if it's acceptable, like to poll the council to see if they're available for a Friday special closed session meeting, starting, Madam City Clerk, if you would take a availability poll on each council member for their availability, either 10 a.m. or 3 p.m. on Friday. The clerk.
Mr. Sanchez?
Yes, 10 on Friday and 3 on Friday work fine for me.
Ms. Ibarra?
Friday at 3 works for me.
Mr. Charette?
I'm not available.
Mr. Nichol?
I'm available anytime.
Ms. Richard?
I'm available at 10 o'clock.
Mr. Mulvihill?
I'm not going to be available.
Okay. So that would be, you have availability except for Mr. Charette and Mr. Mulvihill?
According to our charter,
we need 4.
And so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be number 1, number 2, number 5, and number 6. And it looks like the preferred time would actually be 10.
Ms. Ibarra, are you available at 10 on Friday morning?
I can work on my schedule. I'm also off on Monday.
Very well. 10 o'clock,
Monday is
10 o'clock on Friday for a special closed session. I'd like to direct the city manager and the city clerk to notice the public. We will have a special closed session hearing regarding the concerns expressed by Councilmember Ibarra regarding the review of the city manager's contract.
My office will post that.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
And I don't know how far we can go with this discussion, but it seems to me that this is, whether it's if it's a personnel issue, the person being, I'm not sure exactly the term I want to use here, but in this case, the city manager, I think she has the option of doing it publicly or in closed session. Am I not correct?
And it depends what council's looking to do, but we would...
See, that's the problem here. No one knows something's going on here, and I don't support it, but there's something that's really a problem here that needs to be addressed, and I am very concerned about it.
In the agendizing of this item, we will ensure that the city manager's rights are preserved.
Thank you.
Very well. Again, as indicated by the request of Councilmember Ibarra and the availability of council members, this council will meet on Friday at 10 a.m. in closed session for the review of the city manager's contract. Thank you. Moving on, I ask my colleagues if they have any pulls from the consent calendar items 5 through 24. Ms. City Clerk, if you would help me take those notes, I'd appreciate it. Let's begin with Councilmember Sanchez. Are there any pulls on consent calendar items? Very well. Moving on to Councilmember Ibarra.
Item 12.
Very well. Councilman Charette?
No.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Nickel?
My questions have been answered.
Very well. Councilman Richard?
None tonight.
Councilman Mulvihill?
None tonight.
Ms. City Manager, there's been a request for administrative pull on items number 12, 16, and 17 for those items to be continued to January 2nd.
Yes, you indicated to me that you'd like to, or you requested that we continue items 12, 16, and 17 to the next meeting.
So with those, Ms. Ibarra?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I only heard a request for item 12 to be pulled. Was 16 and 17 also requested?
You know what? Sorry, I apologize. I had written them down. I'll be honest. I didn't listen in. There were items 12. Let me see. 16 and 17 that I wanted pulled from the consent calendar.
Okay. We should take a motion on the balance, and then we can take action on the rest of the...
There's been a motion and a second. Call for the question, please.
Heard Mr. Charette make the motion. Who made the second?
Second.
Thank you. If you all can push your buttons, there's Mr. Charette, you push first. Okay. On the consent calendar, except for the items that were pulled, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Charette, the second by Mr. Nickel, and the item passes 6-0.
Very well, thank you. Item number 12, 16, and 17, I have also made a request to our city manager to continue these items to the January 2nd meeting, if that would be possible.
I think we would need a council member to make the motion on the items.
All right, very well. Do I entertain a motion to continue those items for study?
To the second?
And push those to January 2nd.
I will make a motion to that effect.
And I'll second it.
Discussion? Call for the question, please.
So Mr. Nickel, and then Ms. Richard, now you guys can vote. Right. So,
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
I'm voting no on that, but I'd like to know what the purpose of continuing these items are. What is the reason? These are routine items that are on the consent agenda that generally would be. What's the purpose for continuing these and just kicking the can down the road?
We're a new city council up here, and there's questions we have, there's things that we want to look over, and I think we're entitled to that. We're entitled to that as a new council.
I appreciate and understand that. It seems to me that we've had agenda briefings and that we've made it pretty clear, and it's my understanding that we've done all we can to reach out to any new incoming people to help them through the agenda and answer any questions that might be addressed. I know what's going on here, and I don't support it.
Very well. Ending discussion. We'll call for the question.
I have
City Clerk.
a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Type of
Mr. Mulvihill, yes, sir.
statement. Yeah, particularly on agenda item 12, the services of a code enforcement prosecutor. Without a city prosecutor, we don't really have any enforcement for our codes. Before our city prosecutor was hired, we had almost 5,000 open cases, and we couldn't take them to the court. The district attorney could have provided us some assistance. They never did. So we hired our own city prosecutor. So if you really want to not deal with having a city prosecutor, then we don't have any enforcement for code enforcement. So this is a very serious matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mulvihill. We'll end our discussion if there are no other discussion points. Mr. Nickel?
So on item 12, if the city manager could just elaborate how much authority is left in this contract, what is the timeline in terms of us completing the existing authority that is under this contract?
It's getting very close. At the same time, remember the mayor and city council requested that we urge our police department and our code enforcement staff to dramatically increase the number of citations that are being issued. Mr. Ojeda just spoke, and one of the things that he suggested, his group wanted to see more enforcement where we were holding individuals accountable. So our police department has done a very remarkable job of increasing the number of citations that are being issued. And as the mayor and council is aware, code enforcement's been stepping up code enforcement, trying to get compliance with property maintenance issues. So the number of cases that the prosecutor's been handling is actually increased, which is a good thing. And so the authority is getting very close. That's why we asked for a continuance through June so that we could continue with those services and at the same time solicit proposals, go through a full RFP process, solicit proposals from other firms, and also look at what our in-house capabilities might be.
Yeah, because I did get questions from constituents regarding our overall code enforcement operation, specifically the current number of code enforcement officers that we have deployed, the number that we're really going to need to accomplish the goals that we've established for ourselves. What is the plan to either increase or temporarily increase the number of those officers? What is the training regimen that we are anticipating they will receive? Are they adequately trained now? So I've been getting a lot of feedback, which is great. I'm glad we're increasing enforcement. I think that's a good thing. I think the concern that I have and some of my constituents is we've done some good things up till now. We want to continue this process of improvement, and we want to make sure that definitely before June, if we need to understand additional steps we need to make to improve the quality of our code enforcement operation, that be part of this conversation.
As the council is aware, there are several areas within the organization that we've discussed the need to dramatically increase staffing. With the budget situation, we've tried to be judicious in what we've recommended. Remember when we started the budget discussions at the beginning of the year, we had a deficit. And so we looked to areas within the organization that we could reduce those costs and then look through the financial model to see where we could make sure that over the 10-year time period that we did not find ourselves in a tough financial situation again. So we've attempted to make those adjustments. We've done a lot of work with the City Attorney's Office thanks to Gary Sines and BB&K. We've been able to reduce those costs to the tune of about $900,000 this fiscal year, about 1.5 as we move forward. And we've looked for other operational efficiencies. But as we've indicated, we have several areas of the organization that really still need to continue to be built. Code enforcement is certainly one of those. Our police department, when I go back to the council's goals, it's to maintain the safety of the community, to make sure that our potholes are filled and our streets are well-maintained and our streetlights are fixed, and then improve the maintenance of properties in the city, beginning with our properties. So we see a need to increase our code enforcement staffing. We also see the need to dramatically increase our planning staff. Right now, we've invested a lot, and again, thanks to BBK doing much of this under the retainer agreement, we've added new CEQA training and some other training to them so they can process cases more quickly and make sure that people get through the planning process in a timely manner. But we still are probably short 3 to 4 and maybe even more planners.
How many code enforcement officers
I
do
think
we
at
have?
this point we have 8 or 9. I would have to verify, but I think it's
Okay.
about 8 or 9. We've attempted to, though, improve the level of training
And
to
are they
them.
just responding to calls?
They're responding
Or is
to
there
calls.
some kind of strategy, or are
We
we
are
targeting
becoming-
enforcement in terms of...
We are becoming more proactive, but really long-term. And again, one of the things that we're looking at internally and plan to bring back to you in the budget discussions is an enhancement of that program. But at this point, we also need to make sure that the cases that we are handling are handled all the way through to conclusion, and that's where the prosecutor is a very effective
Yeah,
tool.
and I don't think there's any objection to, at least I'll speak for myself, there's no objection to the prosecutor. I think this is more, again, making sure that we are progressing, that we aren't just continuing, that we're having a conversation about what's working, what's not, how we may need to improve deployment, where we need to make some investments, because I think code enforcement does generate a return on investment. It is something that we desperately need. When the windows are broken, the quality of communities decline, bad things happen. And so I applaud you for the work you're doing, and my position is I just want to make sure we're having a good, well-vetted conversation about this as we're moving forward.
We see several deficiencies within the organization in terms of staffing. Public Works needs additional staff. They're doing a great job with the resources they have, getting potholes filled. But long-term, we're going to need to invest in code enforcement, continue investment in our police department, investment in our Public Works department. And again, we see areas in the organization that we do need to add bodies to. But given the fact that there are a whole host of things that the council has identified as needs, we're attempting to do what we can with the resources that are available at this point.
Those are all the questions I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Sensing that there is a request by our newly elected council member Ibarra and Sanchez and the need to push this to the January 2 meeting, Mr. Nickel, would it be possible to gain your support to at least move this to January 2nd? Council members have some new questions. We simply are requesting items 12, 16, and 17 to be pushed forward to January.
I would just ask the city manager, are we going to have any issue running into January 2nd on this?
We will have to limit the number of, we will have to withdraw, because we are getting close to the limit that I have, yes. So, we will have to then not have someone appearing in court for some of those cases. We do need to, if we want to continue.
Council member Ibarra.
Okay, the reason I pulled it is because I do see the contract there that we're renewing. However, the numbers that Mr. Mulvihill just mentioned are not included in here. I would like to see more in depth of how many cases Jones and Mayor have been working on and how many have been successful, what kind of revenue it's bringing back into our city before we renew a contract like this. My other concern is we do have BB&K currently serving as our city attorneys, and all I'm seeing is different attorneys doing for different work for different aspects that I would think a city attorney would be handling on inside. So that's where I'm coming from. I like statistics, I like numbers that show me that what the agreement that we're about to renew is going to be benefiting our community. The other concern I have is our code enforcement. There have been some cases of our code enforcement going after community members who have come out to council and spoken against certain items. So I just want to make sure that we are going after the right people who are doing the damage in our community and not people who are frustrated about what's going on in our community. So that's why I was pulling this item.
Very
Hope
good.
you understand.
Madam City Clerk, has there been a second on this motion to continue? and all items 12, 16, or 17 are bundled. I'm going to call for the question so we can proceed on and move. Call for the question. The city clerk will call
May I
the
be
roll.
recognized,
No.
please?
On items 12, 16, and 17, the motion was to continue this to January 2nd. It was made by Mr. Nichol, the second by Ms. Richard, and the item passes 4-2 with Mr. Charette and Mr. Mulvihill voting no.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to go back to the item that we're talking about a special meeting on, and I get that. I'd like to have clarification if this special meeting is going to be to review a contract of the city manager or if it's going to be to review performance.
I understood it as a request for a performance evaluation.
A performance
That is not-
evaluation.
that
That
is
is not
not-
the request. The request is
No.
to review the contract.
Madam City
Which is
Clerk,
it?
what was the directive and what was the subject
The
matter?
directive to me, and the only directive I've heard, was to poll the council about their availability for a closed session meeting on Friday regarding the city manager's contract. It was not more specific than that.
I'm struggling to understand how we agendize.
So that's the subject matter, Mr. City Attorney. Can you help us agendize it to the request of the council member?
Are you looking to revise the existing contract? I'm struggling to understand what we will.
We'd like to review the city manager's contract.
Okay, I will work with you to make sure we agendize the appropriate
Thank you, sir.
request.
And a point of order on that, do we need to take public comment on the item that we just discussed for closed session?
On every item, the public is entitled to provide public comment.
Are there any
including
members of the
closed.
public who would like to...
Sorry, not on this, on Friday.
On
during
Friday.
the special meeting, yes.
We're not obligated
tonight.
to take testimony or anything?
No, you're entitled to add items to an agenda or call a meeting, and that's covered by the Brown Act. There's no
Very
requirement
good.
for...
And also, a question came up as to is it a 72-hour posting? Can you please explain the nature of kind of the background of you gave us a timeline. Can you help us understand that, please?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Mayor. So generally speaking, under the Brown Act, for a regular meeting, 72 hours notice is required. However, the Brown Act provides for special meetings upon 24 hours notice. That's why I suggested Friday, because we would be able to prepare an agenda tomorrow and get it out in time for a 24 hours later. The posting will be tight with Friday at 10 a.m., but we can make it work.
And so long as I don't adjourn this 2 weeks from now at the conclusion of today's meeting and adjourn it to Monday or Friday at 10 a.m., we're in safety.
Well, you wouldn't adjourn tonight's meeting because it was not on the agenda for tonight's meeting. So you would adjourn tonight's meeting with all actions for tonight completed. We would agendize a new special meeting for Friday, and we would have to get that notice in on Friday.
Very well.
We wouldn't be able to adjourn tonight's meeting to Friday because that item was not on the agenda. So you wouldn't be adjourning something with action able to be taken, if that makes sense.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving
Mr.
on.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Mulvihill.
Having a special session to review the city manager's contract doesn't, to me, make a whole lot of sense. We've provided a contract to the city manager for, I believe, 5 years. And I think that if there's some sort of a motive here, I mean, anybody can sit down and read what her contract is. It sounds to me as though there's some undercurrent here, some motive that that I personally don't quite understand, nor do I agree with. But I think if you're thinking about modifying the city manager's contract, you're setting yourself up for a huge lawsuit. Am I right, Mr. City Attorney? Potentially.
I wouldn't say that in those words, but I think we need to be careful. But I'll be here to ensure that we are careful as we
I see
proceed.
setting a contract is a contract. It's a promise. And it's what the city was founded on. Presumably what this council is founded on. If we start doing this to our city manager, what does this send out to the development community around the Inland Empire? That we don't trust a very responsible individual who has helped bring us out of a very dark era, who has established an incredibly competent, intelligent, and skillful city staff, and has spent a great deal of time doing that. So the very fact of having a special session without even looking at her contract. I mean, if you have any questions about it, I'm sure you can sit down and talk to her about it. So it just seems to me that this is I wouldn't say a waste of time. I think it's an insult to this council and to this city manager. And it sends out exactly the wrong message to the development community and to the residents of this city. Thank you very much.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes, sir.
I think it's appropriate that we, as a new city council, I was elected because I promised change. I think Mr. Mulvihill is assuming things that we have not mentioned here on this dais. All we're doing is reviewing the city. The city, one of the principal characters in this city, and the idea that you're going to go ahead and assume that we already have a charted path is to assume too much. We are simply doing a review of the way things are, agreements that have been made. We are obligated by our voters who voted for us to make full aware of the agreements that the city has come into. And that's all we're doing, is we're reviewing the contracts that the city has made. I think we're entitled to it. As a new council, we're entitled to see whether we want to continue or not. And the assumption that some of the other council members are making, I think, is going a little too far. We're assuming just a little too much.
Very well.
We're simply asking for a review.
You're casting aspersions
Mr.
that
Charette,
we're making some
Mr.
assumptions,
Charette, you're out of
and the
order,
assumptions
sir.
are not being made at
Mr.
all.
Charette.
It was made.
Mr. Charette.
The point was made that you
Mr.
can simply
Charette,
read
you're out
the
of order, Mr.
contract and
Charette.
ask the questions that you might want, or talk to the city manager.
Mr. Charette,
This
you're out of order. Mr. Charette, you're out of
wrong.
order. We will continue on. We will continue on to our staff report section.
Mayor
And-
Valdivia, just to be clear, the item we plan to agendize is a conference with labor negotiators with the city manager to discuss the contract.
And I would recommend she have an attorney and present.
Nothing more, nothing less. Is that correct, Mayor?
I'm going to move on to item staff number 25. We need to move on. Item 25 is about the San Bernardino Breezeway, the Breezeway Arts Block Creative Placemaking Grant. The city manager, do you have a report on this item?
I do. Mayor, members of the council, and I do have Jim Tickmeyer who's going to present on the bulk of the item, but this is an opportunity we have been asked by the council to look for opportunities to collaborate with partners within our community to bring vibrancy to the downtown and do a whole host of other things. As the council is aware, and this seems like a good time to announce, we just received a $10 million grant for improvements to various signals throughout.
Can you say that louder, please?
$10 million. Awesome job by Public Works and Caltrans. But this is another opportunity to collaborate with some key partners, and I agree with the comments that have been made, and I know
Move
that
approval.
staff does. Very good job, Jim. Thank you very much. Excellent work. Yeah.
All right, we have
Congratulations.
a motion and a second. Are there any discussion or comments by council members? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, if you'd report.
On item 25, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Charette, the second by Mr. Mulvihill, and the item passes 6-0.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, and I know the
Thank
community thanks you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you, staff members. Thank you, public, for your support on that item. We hear you loud and clear on it. Item number 26 is about a special election to fill the vacancy in the 3rd Ward. I'd like to fill this seat as soon as possible. I understand that there are time requirements and limitations to call this election. Ms. City Clerk, can you report what the timing requirements are?
Yes, and actually I'd like to point out a mistake that the city attorney was very kind to let me know of. I said it was a minimum 113 days. It's actually 114 days, but that does not change. I'm sorry, I probably should have started that whole discussion with the state law requires a certain amount of time for a candidacy period, as well as time to just get the stuff on a ballot, get a ballot printed. And that timing is 114 days. My staff report said 113. I do apologize for that. But it does not change the date, the earliest date that you could set an election for then would be May 7th. And that would be if we came back on January 2nd with a resolution calling for the election and asking for the registrar of voters to help conduct that election. And the reason it was not on this agenda, because I know that that was of interest to you, was that ordinance MC 1509 was passed on November 21st, and it doesn't take effect until December 21st, which is 2 days from now. So legal counsel suggested that you not be voting on a resolution that's not backed up by that ordinance. So we can come back on the 2nd. I did talk to the registrar of voters, and they have changed their process a little bit. They used to have to take it to the Board of Soups for approval. Now it's just kind of an administrative action. They don't take it to the supervisors for approval. But we would send once, assuming it came on January 2nd, it was approved, we had the signed resolution, I would forward that to the ROV, and they'd move forward.
The city manager, are there any, so the recommendation is to bring this item before January 2nd, and...
Does it need a motion?
Yeah, this is really a receive and
Motion to
file, so that
continue.
you have information, and then we will bring the proper, assuming you want us to proceed as expeditiously as we can, which it sounds as though we would want to do, then we will just make sure we meet those deadlines.
Very good. No action required tonight. Very good. Moving on. Thank you, City Clerk. Moving on to item number 27. Item number 27 is regarding the development permit type P Arrowhead Avenue adaptive reuse. I'd like to open the public hearing and ask anyone here to speak on the matter to stand to be sworn in by our City Clerk. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on item number 27? If so, please raise your hand. Is that John? John Matley, Mr. Matley. And then Carmel Rowe. I have 2 speaker slips on item number 27. Ms. Rowe, are you here?
She said she had to leave. So
Okay, all right. The City Clerk.
Mr. Matley, do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the item before this body? If so, please say I do. I do. Thank you.
All right. Ms. City Manager, do you have a report on this item, item number 27?
We do, Mayor, members of the council. We also have the developer here who would like an opportunity to address the mayor and city council. This is an item that you've seen previously, if you will recall. This is an item that was explored with you several months ago. After the conclusion of the discussion, the council was ready to move and take a vote on the item. There was a speaker who expressed some concern that we take a look at our CEQA requirements and the process that we use for the CEQA. At that point, BB&K had just joined the team as the city's new legal counsel. We agreed that it was best to look at that and determine whether or not there were changes that need to be made to our CEQA process. We agreed with some of the comments that were made. We worked with that attorney to fully understand what his questions were, and you instructed us to go through that process, which we did. We have made some changes to that, and in fact, in response to Mr. Nichols' comments earlier, that was one of those reasons why we went back and retrained staff on the CEQA process and got some updated training, but also some new information about various CEQA tools. With that, we have this item again before you. We've corrected the CEQA issues, and the developer would like an opportunity to present on the project. And we also have Chantal Powers here, the planner who worked on this originally and is again here this evening. So we'll walk through that presentation and then answer any questions that the council has, just recognizing that we have addressed the CEQA issues that were addressed to the council last time. Chantal?
Yes. Okay. As the city manager has explained, we have looked at the project before. The issue came up that the CEQA exemption that we used was maybe not the right CEQA exemption, so we needed a little bit of time to work on analyzing the CEQA exemption that the city attorney felt would be most appropriate for this particular project. And then we had a few scheduling issues after that, so that's why we're here now. But just to give you a little background on the project, the proposal is to convert an existing office building from, I believe it's about 15 offices to 15 residential units. It would consist of 3 two-bedroom units and 12 one-bedroom units. The parcel is located at 1600 North Arrowhead Avenue, so that's the northwest corner of 16th Street and Arrowhead Avenue. There was a public speaker that indicated that they might be the same owners as the property across the street. I believe that she was referring to 1601 and 1609 North Arrowhead, which are on the northeast corner, and those apartments have been nuisances. They are not owned by the same property owner. They are owned by a separate property owner that has been kind of an absentee landlord. They do, however, Ocean Investment LLC, they actually own the property on the southeast corner at 1595 North Arrowhead Avenue. That was actually the first project that was approved for adaptive reuse from commercial office to residential. They are currently in the plan check process. I believe they're almost done with that, so we should see construction on that project soon. They've also been working with the property owners at 1601 and 1609 to try and alleviate some of the problems that have been occurring at those apartments. I'll let the applicant kind of explain a little bit more about what they've been trying to do in the neighborhood to alleviate some of the issues there. But to get into the project a little bit more, there is adequate parking on the site. The applicant has added a small play area for anybody that has children there. The site is completely fenced and gated. We've added some conditions that the alleyway will need to be striped and posted as a no parking zone and a tow-away zone, just to make sure that all the residents that actually use that alleyway have access to it at all times. Additionally, we've added some conditions that the applicant will have an on-site manager. They will comply with the crime-free housing program. They will have 24-hour time-lapse security cameras covering the entire property and the alleyway. And that's about as much as we can do to really secure the property. The applicant has agreed to all of those items. And so our recommendation tonight is that you adopt the resolution and approve development permit type P 18-01.
Does that conclude your presentation?
It does, unless you have questions for me.
All right. At this time, I'm going to ask for the public speaker to honor our public comment process. Mr. Matley, would you please join us down here at the podium, and you'll be recognized on your matter, item number 27, this issue before us. Mr. Matley?
Okay, and just so I understand, this is a public hearing. Is there a limit to my speaking time? Okay. What was that? 3 minutes? Okay, well, there's a lot to go through. My name is John Matley. I live at 380 West 17th Street, which is less than a block away from this development. I am also the president of the DMV Neighborhood Association, and I've been asked by a number of my neighbors to come down here and represent some of their concerns. There's many problems with this proposal. I'm going to see how many of them I can get through here. There's a lot, though. We are concerned that, first of all, that the density is being added to one of the densest, most crime-ridden areas, one of the poorest areas of the city. Right across the street has been mentioned one of the worst slum buildings in the entire city that Captain Lawhead himself has admitted the police department has zero ability to control. Bringing more density in a low-income area is not going to make things any better. We have a developer here with zero experience in this type of housing.
I'm sorry, sir. Let me just one moment.
Yeah.
I just want to correct something.
took a look, I realized our 3-minute limitation on general public comment, it expressly excludes public hearing items, and I wanted to make sure that the speaker didn't rush through his items unnecessarily and then to have me at the end tell him he's got more time. So,
Okay.
Mr. Matley, unlimited time.
Okay, good. Okay, that
Talk to us. Tell us.
That makes you feel better. Okay, yeah. So obviously, we don't think that, just generally speaking, it's a good idea to add more density into an area that's already amongst the densest in the entire city, amongst the poorest in the entire city, and right across the street from one of the worst crime problems in the entire city that the police department has acknowledged they can't even control. The developer here has absolutely zero experience in this type of development. The developer has developed a lot of single-family housing, usually in nice towns. You know, they'll do a lot of infill stuff, and they may be in the poorer area of nice towns. But I'll tell you, the poor area of Laguna Beach is not the same as the poor area of San Bernardino. Okay, the other problem is the developer not only has not developed in this type of area, they've never really developed large multi-tenant housing. And because of this, you know, we believe any housing going in here, any multi-tenant housing particularly going in here, needs to be very tightly managed. It requires somebody on site to take care of it. This developer, honestly, in our conversations with him, he does not understand why that's an important thing. And when we asked him about putting in a full-time manager on the site, his exact responsibility, he explained to us what his reasoning was for not doing it. His exact words were, "I cannot be responsible for the actions of others." He's referring to his tenants. The neighborhood's concerns were brought forward. We sat down with the developer, with Development Services, with Captain Lawhead Police Department, and the neighborhood went through a series of concerns. There was probably about 8 or 9 of us in the room. We proposed different solutions for our concerns, and every single one of our proposals was met with a "no, that can't be done," just a flat-out "no, it can't be done." There was no, "well, maybe we can do it this way, maybe we can do it that way, well, we considered this." There's just flat-out, can't be talked about, can't be negotiated. The answer is no. In that conversation, Captain Lawhead actually had told us, you know, regarding the crime-free multi-housing, that actually none of the enforcement mechanisms that we have for crime-free multi-housing are actually legal, so we can't even rely upon that. At the end of this whole process, I will tell you, the people that went through this process just universally came back with the idea that the concerns of the neighborhood were not valued. They were not even welcome. We all felt like we were sort of being talked at, like, this is the way it has to be done. You don't know as much about development as we do. There was no sense of, gee, tell us something about the neighborhood, because we're not familiar with it. So I will tell you, the entire process bothered us, just because it was pretty clear as we got into this thing. We were coming in, stating our concerns, proposing solutions, and just being shut down and told, no, it's got to be a certain way. We're concerned also in this thing that the developer intentionally misled us and misled Development Services and misled the Planning Commission through this process. When we brought up our concern about his lack of experience in managing multi-unit housing, particularly in an area like this, he brought up a development that they had done, that they completed recently. I believe it's at G and 8th or G and 9th. And they pointed out it was multi-unit housing. It was in that area, really nice. So we said, okay, well, we'd like to visit it. Some of you who know us, who have seen us over the course of years, you'll know that when a developer comes in, one of the things we try to do is talk to them and visit previous facilities to just kind of get a feel. They've said, what we got from was, well, I don't know, it would be difficult to do it because people live there may not like it. And I said, we don't need to walk into the units. We'd like to take a little tour of the property. It wasn't until later, when we did a search of the property records, we found out the reason why they couldn't do it was shortly after developing the property, filling it with tenants, they immediately flipped the property. They never managed this property as a multi-tenant operation. So they have zero experience managing multi-tenant facilities, zero experience managing them in an environment like this. And it was unfortunate that we had to go through public records to find that out. Now, I will tell you also, what was more concerning than that, even alarming to me, was Development Services was in the room for every conversation we ever had with the developer. That the first Planning Commission meeting we went to, the developer laid that property out as an example. In the conversations we had with Development Service in the room, that's when it came out that, oh, actually, we never actually managed it. Neither the Planning Commission nor Development Services seemed particularly alarmed by the fact that this developer had basically given a story that would help his case, even though that story was not true. It bothered me no end that, basically they'd lied to us about what their experience was just to make that problem go away. And we had to go find it out by looking at public records. I couldn't help thinking, Mr. Mulvihill, when you were on the Planning Commission, I don't remember that Planning Commission taking that type of thing from applicants. So glad you're up here, but there's times I miss you on the Planning Commission. The homeowners in the area are, I will tell you, are universally opposed to what is currently in the proposal. I will tell you, some of the neighbors have said they would really like to see a development like this succeed there, but there are certain parameters we need around it, one of which making sure that we have the thing properly managed. I will tell you my view is I think that this thing could be a successful commercial property, but that's a different point. But universally, every single person that lives in the neighborhood is opposed to putting an unmanaged multi-unit housing unit in there. This does bring up another major concern we have. On October 2nd, and maybe someone can point this to me, because I went through the documents that are here and I didn't see it. I just heard Development Services say there is a condition in here stating there will be an on-site manager. I didn't see it in here, so is there some place in here where it's located that I'm missing?
Sorry, it's not a condition of approval, but the applicant has agreed that they would have an on-site manager.
Okay, so there's absolutely... So,
You can't add that as a condition if it's something...
Okay, well, and when we brought this up to the Planning Commission, when we brought it up in our meeting together, and then at the Planning Commission, we were told, well, we can't add that as a condition. Now I'm hearing we can, but it hasn't been added as a condition. It's not in there. So we're taking the developer's word that, number one, they'll put an on-site manager in there, and number two, we're assuming that whoever he sells that property to and understand his business model is to develop these things and then turn them over. So you should expect within the first 6 months to a year after filling the property, there will be a different owner. If it's not a condition of this, then that new owner, there's absolutely zero reason to imagine he's going to spend a unit on an on-site manager. So if that's not in there, it's no good. And it bothers us because we did receive an email from you. My wife received an email when we saw an article in the newspaper saying that this had been added to the terms of the conditions, and we got what we thought was a confirmation of that, but it sounds like we may have misread that or something. But I don't think we can be just trusting that the property manager for the entire life of this property is going to have a manager there. Okay, let's see. I will tell you, one of our concerns also on this thing, the notifications that happened. For instance, tonight, I did not receive a notification for this meeting, and a number of my neighbors did not either. Councilwoman Ibarra, I thank you for letting us know about this last week, because we didn't even know it was on the agenda. I didn't show up in my mailbox, and I talked to several of my neighbors who had not seen it either, so I don't know what happened there. But
Mr. Matley?
Yeah.
Are you within 500 feet of the property?
Well, I guess it matters how you measure it. I am absolutely certain that my property line and my nearest property line to their nearest property line has got to be less than 500 feet. Okay, but radius from, I mean, if it's from the center of my property to the center of their property, I'm probably not. If it's front door to front door, probably not. But if it's from the edge of my property, yeah, from the edge of my property, I haven't run a measuring tape out there, but I live at 380 West 17th, and this thing is right across the alley from 17th Street on 16th Street. It's a large building, so I'm not all the way to D Street. I can't imagine a property that size. I'm not within 500 feet of its nearest property line. If I'm not there, it's got to be by inches. So. But here's the thing. Development Services did have our emails and our phone numbers, and I realize no legal requirement to call us, no legal requirement to email us, but we were very actively involved, and we kind of, last we'd heard was it wasn't going to be on the October agenda. It kind of wasn't on our radar until Thursday of last week when Sandra told us about it. And so one of the reasons why I don't have a lot of neighbors here is nobody was ready for this. So, and I think, you know, during the Planning Commission thing and during our conversations, there were, you know, we had a lot of neighbors in the room talking to them.
Mr. Mulvihill, yes, sir. Okay.
Okay, yeah. The other thing is, I noticed in the package that you guys received, there is actually no information in there about the information we provided the Planning Commission. We did provide like a 6 or 7 page document to the Planning Commission delineating our concerns. And I can go through some of the other concerns we have. One of the concerns we had was some of the findings, you know, really simple. Some of the findings of fact were untrue. One of the findings of fact we had was there was a finding of fact in there saying it was near children's recreational areas. Well, the nearest children's recreational area is Paris Hill Park, and I'm betting not one person with a child would let their kid walk from that location to Paris Hill Park. It'd be insane, right? Now, they put a little playground in there, but that doesn't change the fact that there's a finding of fact that it was wrong. There were some other findings of fact that we looked at with our untrained eyes, of saying just that's not right, which leads us to wonder, for all the technical findings of fact that we're not in any position to judge, how good are they, right? I mean, that's a concern. So that was one of the issues. The other one, mostly, our other biggest issue had to do with having the right management in place for it, having skilled management, having experienced management that knew how to manage multi-unit housing in this type of an environment. Now, I'll tell you this, I understand the ordinance that was passed regarding the E Street, D Street, and Arrowhead corridors. I will tell you it's my personal opinion that it's based upon a false presumption that these units cannot be filled. And the reason why I say it's a false presumption, the nearest office building to this, a one-story office building just north, right at the corner of Arrowhead and 17th, has been occupied. It's on a second tenant since I moved into the city, but it's been occupied pretty much nonstop with the exception of 1 month in the last 15 years since I've been here. If I go a block west of there at the corner of 17th and D, there are 2 large 2-story office buildings, and both of them are at or near 100% occupancy. If I go to 16th and D, just 1 block west of there, there's another 2-story office building that's completely empty. It's completely empty because its owner spent about $100,000 putting unpermitted improvements into the property, and so it is legally uninhabitable. But I'm sure that if he'd done it correctly, he'd probably have some tenants. So I look at the area around there, and I don't see that those corridors, at least not in our immediate neighborhood, have any greater challenge than any other commercial property in this city. I mean, I think if San Bernardino's fortunes rise, I think these corridors' fortunes rise just as well as anything else. So, you know, one final point, and this is a personal opinion of mine, not an opinion of most of my neighbors, but my personal opinion is there's no reason why a committed owner could not turn this into a successful commercial property. That said, I will tell you that many of my neighbors indicated that a well-thought-out, well-planned, well-managed residential property would be acceptable to most of them. I will tell you, I'd be personally, I'd be a little on the fence about it, but I will tell you a number of my neighbors indicated they'd be okay with it, but it has to be under the right circumstances. I will tell you that I just don't think that putting an unmanaged 15 units of unmanaged housing into a neighborhood that is this impacted already, especially across the street from a problem like exists there, it's just almost guaranteed to turn the area into a slum. I'll make a final point. Some of you have known us for a long time, and you know that we're not really a not in my backyard type of people. We try to work with developers. As a matter of fact, a few months ago, some of you were on the council, you know we came to you and actually asked you to allow in a development just to block the other direction. I mean, I live basically almost halfway between this development and that development. And in that case, we had gone, talked to them, we saw what they were developing. We went and visited their facilities in Riverside. We did a lot of research on them, talked to them about what they were doing. And they met our criteria, which is They had experience at this. They had 25 years of success in many different types of neighborhoods. We saw how they built and managed their infrastructure in Riverside. And like we said at the time, there's no guarantee of anything in life. There's no guarantee that anything's going to turn out perfectly. But in our view, having a developer who's willing to be open and work with you, who has a long track record of the types of development they're doing, is exactly what you want running something like this. So we looked at it and said, that's the type of development we want. This development is exactly the opposite of that. We have a developer who has no long-term commitment to the property, has no experience managing this thing. I'll tell you, my view of it is, even after talking to them, they still don't understand the unique challenges of Central San Bernardino. We place a high value on the trustworthiness of such developers. Trustworthiness is two things, right? Are they honest, but also are they, even if they're being honest, are they actually capable of keeping their word, right? I mean, someone may, in all earnestness, promise you something thinking they can do it, but they're really not capable of doing it. So trustworthiness is, do I believe you're honest, and do I believe you're actually capable of doing it? And in this case, we just don't see the capability or even the willingness of the developer to do it. You know, it's like I said, the Veterans Property, we saw it there. A few years ago, some of you remember, we got involved with the Waterman Gardens project. Another developer who went to a lot of effort to let us in, see what was going on. They worked hard with us to make things acceptable. And I think you saw that first couple of developments they did worked out very nicely. So, but we look at that and say, if we see a developer like that who has a long track record in these types of environments, who's willing to work with us, we have a lot of faith in them. When we have one who's kind of just telling us this is the way it's going to be, they have no track record and they don't have an understanding, not so much. I will finish up just by saying that in our view, this is the wrong project in the wrong place with the wrong applicant. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Matley. Does that conclude your comments?
That's it.
Thank you. Is the developer here? Is the applicant here?
Can I just talk to Mr. Matley?
Yes.
Certainly.
Yeah. Well, you spoke at the last hearing on this with the City Council, didn't you?
I did not speak when this, I spoke at Planning Commission twice on this. I've not spoken here on this.
You didn't speak at the City Council meeting the last time this was brought up?
Oh, I might have. I don't believe I did, but I could be wrong.
Because if you had spoken, regardless of whether you were 500 feet or not, you should have been contacted.
Okay.
In other words,
yeah,
I'm almost sure that you did. Maybe your wife had spoken. One of the two of you.
It's possible. I don't believe that I was at the City Council meeting when it was presented before, but we were at the two Planning Commission meetings on
Now,
this.
the problem building across the street from this project, what's the problem with it? You said it's gang-ridden or...
Oh, yeah, it's got all sorts of... I mean, the police department ought to just open an office there. It's bad. And you heard some of the... you heard the reference to it. It's 1601 and 1609 are the two. It's big gray two-story apartment complex.
But that building's on our radar?
Yes, it is. But I think, unfortunately, we've gone through the administrative process. We're using criminal sanctions now,
Okay.
and prosecutors are helpful in that process.
See, and this is where the city prosecutor comes in that we've been talking about before. Now, I guess the issue of having an on-site manager, there was some discussion back and forth between you and Ms. Powers. Is Ms. Powers back there?
Yes.
And I don't see her here.
So, you're going to make jokes now?
Okay. Now, is it a condition of approval that there's going to be an on-site manager? So if this changes hands, there's going to be an on-site manager?
Sorry, I did not mean to say that it is a condition of approval. It's not. In the course of reviewing this project, the applicant has assured me that they do want to have an on-site manager. They have agreed to that. If it's something that the council is amenable to and the applicant is amenable to, we could potentially add that as a condition of approval.
I think we need to add that because it obviously, I'm just assuming his business plan is he's going to fix this place up, get it through the approval process, and then he needs to sell it to do his business again. I mean, he's not in the business of operating it. He's in the business of doing the remodeling and so forth and getting it through the process. That's what his business is. And so what we're looking at is the fact that there's going to be subsequent owners to this, and we want to make sure that they're going to be people that we're going to be proud to have in the city, because we really want to have a well-managed project. I mean, that's our objective. That's why we're going after the neighborhood, the issue that's across the street that's been taking so long. And the one reason is what we've been talking about a couple of issues ago. I thought I had one more thing, but I think I pretty much hit everything. So I think if I could make a motion that
Councilmember Mulvihill, I would ask that we wait until the close of the public hearing
okay,
before
unless
we...
the manager. But I'm going to,
if we want to add
hold
extra
that.
conditions, that would be a time to discuss that among the council, and then we could always ask the applicant to come up to see if he's amenable to the new condition at that time.
Well, I intend to make that motion.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi. Welcome. My name is Jeff Howie from Ocean Investment Group. Do I need to be sworn in, or?
Madam City Clerk, does he need to be sworn in?
Okay.
Very well.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Just to be clear, we have agreed, and whatever conditions need to be specified in writing, that we will agree to an on-site manager. The issue was that we were a 15-unit complex based on the size of the property, and in the state of California, 16 happens to be the criteria. But after, consideration and talking with the community and getting their feedback, we felt like that was something that we were willing to agree to and make that commitment. So however that needs to be dealt with, we're perfectly fine with that. Mr. Matley made mention to quite a few things. I will try and address what I can there. As you know, this project has been presented a few times, and we feel very strongly that this is a very substantial benefit to the community, not only because of the need for additional housing, but also because in this AR1 zoning, the commercial component has been void for close to a decade. And every property owner that I speak to that has commercial property there has challenges of renting their properties. The prior owner that we had could not rent the property that he owned it for 3 years. And the commercial, as you all know, has all moved towards the east side of town. And that's where we feel this particular area is perfectly designed for a redevelopment, because the only other option is possibly to tear the buildings down. I've heard that argument, but San Bernardino does not need another vacant lot, okay? The neighbors in this community, so that we're clear, we did have a meeting, and I have reached out by email and voicemail to both Deborah and John, and unfortunately, I do not get a response. I've asked to be part of the neighborhood watch. I've talked to the neighbors along the alleyway that that are directly our neighbors, as well as the neighborhoods on 16th Street, because there are a lot of problems further down the street towards D and 16th. And we have said we will either establish our own neighborhood watch program or be a part of a greater neighborhood watch program that includes 17th Street. We're very committed to that. Our property is fully gated, fully cameraed, on-site manager, neighborhood watch, the crime-free program. We have had Captain Lawhead out there working on 1609. I've met with the manager across the street on a few occasions and have actually brought the owners from Orange County out to address the issues that are going on across the street at the complex that has had significant gang and drug activity. In the last 4 months, with the police activity that's happened there, and with the involvement with the manager and also with the owners, they have rid 10 tenants out of there that were causing those problems and replaced those with families and some seniors. I've been assured that they are committed to making that happen, because we own the property at 1600 and at 1595. They are directly across from both of our properties. We have a significant interest in making sure that that happens. And so, that's my case as far as, just making sure that you guys understand that we do have a sincere desire to make an improvement in the community, to provide housing and not low-income housing, just to make sure this is very clear. There will be over $1 million spent on the improvements of that property, both of them actually, and these will be nice properties that will be, renting in the range of, $1,000 to $1,200, $1,300 a month. So there is a high-level need for the housing and of a quality product.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Nickel.
Well, I want to thank our public commenter. I want to thank the developer. And I'll be honest, I've expressed concerns about this project since it was first brought to my attention. And my concerns are based not so much in what the developer is proposing to do. I admire individuals that are willing to invest in our city that desperately needs investment, but needs redevelopment. And I don't want to disparage our staff that I think are dealing with a very difficult situation in a city that is still very much in a situation that is really quite dire. I just got through an election process that required me to visit many corners of our region immediately surrounding our city. And I'll be honest, the precincts that I had to walk in San Bernardino were rough. Very rough. I walked Redlands, I walked Highland, I walked Rancho Cucamonga, I walked Loma Linda. There were parts of San Bernardino I couldn't walk in, period. Too dangerous, too rough. And I think what that gets to is the role of this body, the City Council and the Mayor. And I think what I heard very loudly and clearly in this election is we need to step up and do our job. And it's time that we commit ourselves to a process that ensures that we have a general plan amendment, so individuals like yourself, sir, and again, I don't want to disparage your project, I don't want to disparage the work you're doing. We need folks like you, so I don't want to discourage folks like you from coming to town. But what I am going to do is encourage my colleagues sitting here. We need to get to work immediately on updating our general plan so that there's no ambiguity. So when you sit down with our city staff, we've already been through a very well-vetted process within our community with the residents. So we really understand what it is that they're looking for, so we can establish those standards, so we don't have to keep stringing you along day after day, week after week, month after month, and hope that you'll stick around and hope that we'll come to some conclusion on this. I'm going to have to vote no on this tonight, and I do so regretfully because I don't think this is the fault of the developer. And I'm voting no, not because I think it's the fault of the staff or of the community. I think it's the fault of us, the folks that are sitting at this dais. And I am absolutely committed to the concept. We've discussed this. We've talked a lot. We've said we're committed to being a world-class city. Let's step up and actually do it. So tonight I'm imploring my colleagues, let's commit ourselves to a process that's going to ensure that we amend our general plan so that it's very clear. I'm totally for adaptive reuse. I've seen this successfully implemented in other parts of the country. I've been to Omaha. I've been to Memphis. I've been to Washington, D.C. I've seen waterfronts converted into beautiful loft-style apartments. I've seen former stockyards converted into high-end housing and apartments. This can be done very successfully, but it takes the commitment of the elected body that represents the city to commit ourselves to the investment we need to make first in general plan amendment and in the tools. We've talked about code enforcement tonight. Okay? I think the concern I have, what's the strategy? Okay, we're spending buckets of money now. Great. I'm glad we got a prosecutor. I'm glad we're starting to spend resources. What is the plan? What is the strategy? How is that plan going to dovetail into the good work that this developer is doing and make sure that that community in which this project is located can actually thrive and succeed? Instead of in another 5 years or so, I drive by it and come to find out we've got another tenement slum in the city. We can't afford that. And I'm not saying it's the developer's fault. It's our fault. That's our job, folks. So let's step up. Let's step to the plate. Let's represent the residents here. Let's do our job. Let's get this city kicked into high gear. Let's make this a world-class city. And let's make our residents proud to call themselves residents of San Bernardino. Thank you.
Mr. Nickel, can I
Mr.
address
Mayor, I have
your
a-
comment?
Could I ask that if
Yes.
we have no further question of the applicant, could I suggest we close the public hearing before continuing with deliberation?
You have a response, Mr. Applicant?
I just wanted to comment. I do feel that the council has made that commitment of action by establishing the adaptive reuse. And the whole reason that they allowed for the AR1 area to be selected, and you were part of that, if you remember, is to take action to say, look, we need to do something. We have vacant buildings with homeless, drugs, prostitution, gang activity, fires. These are a burden on the city, and they're a burden on the community. And people are fearful of what's happening in those places. And the action that was taken was to adopt the adaptive reuse as an example to allow people like myself to come in and say, look, I'm willing to invest millions of dollars into trying to turn some things around here and to take some action that all of you have promised your constituents out there to say, we're going to do something and we're going to make a change and we're going to bring in revenues from this. I mean, not only from the construction, but let's talk about the fact that 24 residents in those two complexes at, you know, an average of $40,000 annual income, that's $1 million of income that is now brought into that community, not to mention, you know, the impact that it's currently, negative impact it's currently having on, you know, the police and fire. And so planning did take a very, I believe, a very risky approach to try and develop this to address exactly what you're saying.
Maybe staff could then clarify this question. What is the net benefit to the city of this project, period? Just bottom line it for me. I mean, we're operating under a corporate paradigm now. We are a world-class city. We should gauge each one of these projects in terms of the merit in the context of what is the return on investment. We know what we're spending on code enforcement. We know what we're spending on prosecutors. It sounds like we spent a bunch of money on police and law enforcement there. Okay, how are we recouping that money? Do we have a sense? I know we've talked about pro formas on these types of projects. I still don't see a pro forma on this project. But I think, you know, and this gets to the idea of what is our real policy. I'm all for an adaptive reuse policy, but I just, as of yet, I'm not seeing that we're quite where we need to be to make sure that I feel confident we're making the right decision. Because in 5 years, okay, this property might be flipped. And guess what? A lot of us here on this dais are still going to be in office. And we're going to have to answer to the residents of that community again as to why we made the decision we made. And if I can't, at this point, feel confident that this is going to result in a net return on investment for this community and our city as a whole, I mean, that's just not operating under a corporate paradigm. That's just continuing to go down the rabbit holes we've gone down as a city and ended up where we are today.
Understood, Councilman Nickel. Just to clarify a little bit, that is exactly the reason why we chose this particular location, because this zoning designation is commercial office, and it's very limited in the number of land uses that are actually permitted within this zoning designation. So typical forms of retail are not permitted, restaurants, eateries, those kinds of things generally are not permitted. Those kinds of things that you might see.
Would a general plan update address that?
But yes, but so would the adaptive reuse overlay. And this actually is kind of a unique tool for planners that allows the existing underlining zoning requirements to stay in place, but then adds a layer on top that says, now you have a little more flexibility. Now you have a few more options as to what you can actually
So what is the net return on investment?
Net return on investment is we will see at least $120,000 in impact fees from this project. And I believe I had done an estimate, and it was about $1.50 per square foot is what we would see in rents. So what that comes out to yearly, I think, ended up being about $40,000 a year or something like that.
What are the police response costs going to be?
Less than they are now for the vacant building that has sat there vacant for 15 years.
Do we know what that number is? Do we have any sense?
I don't have that information with me
Okay.
now.
Based on the number of calls, do we have a sense of what the costs have been for this particular area in this neighborhood?
We
I
certainly...
mean, this is what I'm getting at. I mean, I'm not against adaptive reuse. What I'm saying is I have to look at the city as a whole. We've got to balance the budget. We've got to generate revenues. I mean, I get it. This is a vacant building sitting in a neighborhood that's suffering. But is this going to fix that?
Right.
And is this going to generate the benefit to that community and to our city that's needed so that we can climb out of the hole that we're in? If every action we're taking now in terms of these adaptive reuse projects aren't really geared toward generating net revenue and net benefit to the city, what are we doing? So that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Ms. City Manager.
Just to kind of expand or kind of put in context something, I think what we attempted to do by proposing the adaptive reuse overlay zone was really to get around the fact that we have a general plan that's very outdated. So we tried to start with something. We had developers in the community that were interested in doing something along that corridor. We understood the issues that had been faced by the people in that area because of the limitations on the underlying zoning. But to your point, yes, a general plan would give you then the opportunity to look at that in the broader context of the city. We now are looking at, as part of projects, this understanding, what are going to be the costs to provide services based on the type of use that it is, what are they going to generate in terms of property taxes or other types of revenues to the city, and then balance those so we have an understanding of what that net effect is. This project is one of those, though, that was now a long time in the making, and because of the delay with the CEQA, we didn't want to go back and ask them to do that estimate. We certainly can, though. We know what our responses to that property are. We can provide you with that information. I am aware that the developer, and I didn't know it was through his efforts, but we have seen some improvements in the property across the street, and so I do think as you have more engaged owners, and I personally would strongly urge you that if you do want to approve this project, that you require them to have an on-site manager, because in all those properties where we see on-site management with that commitment, they do tend to be much better, and it gives us then someone that we can go to when we're having a problem and really get someone's attention. So again, I think if the council is agreeable to the project, and it sounds as though, Councilmember, you're not, but if the council is, I would urge you to add that condition into the future.
I'd like to make a comment. Would that be possible? Real quick. I'd make it very brief.
Mr. Sanchez, just a minute, please. Mr. City Attorney, should we close the hearing here
Unless,
and then allow for discussion?
If there's a question for the applicant or for staff, then we should leave the public hearing open as long as there's questions. But the moment council's ready to deliberate, and take action, we should close the public hearing.
So let me do this. Is there a polling, any council member, does anyone have a question of the applicant? No?
You know what, and this may be a question for the city manager as well. If this does not pass today, how long is the process before we can get back up here?
Before
we're at this stage now where we can either approve or the residents in the area immediately impacted by this project, they're the experts. They're going to know better than anyone else here what is right for them, and they sound reasonable. They sound that they're willing to make the project with some amendments is palatable.
Right.
It sounds like that. So I want to make sure that those amendments are made and those changes are made, and I cannot vote for this until those changes are made, because the residents are going to know best, and they've told us here that it is palatable if some adjustments are made to this development.
The one comment that I heard that they were interested in is this concept that an on-site manager needs to be there. So that's why I recommended you can add that this evening as a condition of approval and move forward. Or as an alternative, if you're concerned that we didn't capture everything that they had concerns with, you could direct us to go back and meet with them and then come back on the January 2nd meeting. And I apologize to the developer, but we would at least need an opportunity to meet with them, make sure we understand all the issues that they have, and that we've addressed those with new conditions of approval that you could then consider.
I think that's a good idea, because I don't think that just having the on-site manager covers all of the concerns that the residents have. But they have made it clear that there is a development that could be done there with amendments that would be palatable for them, and I think that that's what we need to do.
Councilmember Richard.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I do have, I appreciate my council members up here, or my colleagues up here, and there's two sides to every story. My sister owns her property right around the corner, and when she found out that this development was happening, she was excited. She was excited because here comes a new project where she bought her home. She could have bought her home anywhere, but she chose that neighborhood. But here's this property coming, a development coming, instead of an empty building. So I think that we need to consider that also, and I know that we talked, so there was one guy up here that spoke, Mr. Matley, and he spoke, but he can't speak for the whole community. And I know that my sister can't speak for the whole community. But so there's two sides to every story, where some people will object, there's some people that there's a lot of pros to this. So I say with the exception of having an on-site manager, you know, I just think the project is a wonderful project, and I welcome it to the city. And I say that, no, having an on-site property manager will not cure all problems. But as Henry said, he put some fire up underneath our butts and said, we got to get up and do our jobs. So with that, well, let's do our jobs. Let's have this developer, and I don't believe that just because he hasn't developed a whole lot of projects that we should stop him or hinder him from developing in the city of San Bernardino, because it's going to take time to develop a lot of projects. So how does he get them developed if we don't allow him to do it? So I am in support of this, with the exception of making sure that in the condition of that on-site manager, and especially when the property is moved from one hand to the other, that is a part of it. Okay?
To make sure conditions of approval will run with the land, so that will be a forever requirement.
Nickel.
Yeah, and I would respectfully make this request of my colleagues up here, and perhaps the city manager can help me understand this. From what I'm hearing, the adaptive reuse is sort of a quick workaround the fact that we have delayed the process or kicked the process of a general plan update amendment, whatever we call it, down the road. What does that process look like? How much time does it entail? How quickly can we get moving on that process? Because here's my point. I'm going to be very reluctant to approve these types of projects. I think there's tremendous opportunities in San Bernardino. I think when you look at the surrounding cities, we are extremely undervalued right now compared to our neighbors. And I think that's because we haven't planned properly. When you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I think we're sort of the poster child of that right now. We have to get back to a general plan that is consistent with our recovery plan, that is consistent with the pro-growth, pro-development, pro-business, pro-public safety agenda that I think the voters of this community now support. So, Ms. City Manager, what is that process? How long does it take? How soon could we get moving on that? I'm willing to tentatively, or for the purposes of tonight, approve this project, but it's going to be based on a commitment that we are now going to move forward with a general plan amendment. Can I get some sense of when we can get that underway?
To step back regarding general plan amendments, really that's the vision statement for the development or future development within your community. And so it's a very visionary statement, and certainly we do have a planner on the dais that can explain it in much more detail. And so if I don't do well, you can kick me from there. But really it's a vision statement about what you see in the future for the city and how you want projects to be and properties to be used and reused. There are changes in development patterns and changes in uses, and so it's really your vision for what you want to see in the future. It's a very, to do it well, though, it needs to be a very robust process with a lot of public engagement. And Councilmember Nickel, you've probably heard a lot more about this because your neighborhood is one that has been very concerned with the development, the haphazard development in the Vertimont area and other areas of the community. So again, requires a lot of public outreach, a lot of community meetings. It's a multi-year process, and it's probably $2 to $3 million in a city of this size, but it would need to be over a 2 to 3 year time period, even if we moved as quickly as possible.
When can we bring that to the council?
I can bring something back to council, and we'll have to find where that money is.
Because here's the thing, I've got other developments.
Well, and I just want to...
We've got to get this done.
We have to get this done. The other thing, remember, we're undergoing a development code update now, and really we're focused on those procedural kinds of changes, things that have just changed in state law that we have to comply with in terms of the process of certain things. It's really not dealing with the underlying zoning issues, because you need to have that broader policy general plan statement that then we have the opportunity to make the development code consistent. So realistically, when developers come, there are a whole host of challenges in our planning and community development department that we're working through in terms of training issues and things, but really at the core of what is exacerbating for the development community is this lack of certainty, because we are dealing with things on a one-off basis rather than having them be able to look at those tools.
Bottom line, when can we get to work on this?
We can bring something, we would have to do a budget amendment, and so we could bring something back to you at the next meeting with a cost estimate. We would certainly have to go out to bid, but at least then you have a sense of what the costs are and when we can start.
I'm going to go ahead, I'll support this tonight.
It may be January 16th.
With an understanding, we're going to bring something back. We've got to get to work, folks. I mean, yes, and the voters made it loud and clear. They want to see results. We aren't going to keep kicking the can down the road.
Very good. Do I hear a second on? Second. All right, very good. Mr. Mulvihill.
Sorry.
Hold on, Ms. Ibarra. We have several other speakers. Mr. Mulvihill, Mr. Charette. I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing. Thank you, applicant. Thank you, staff. I think we need to draw our final concluding comments here. But Mr. Mulvihill, please. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Henry, I absolutely agree with you with regard to the general plan. We need to know what our goals are. We need to know where we're moving towards and how we're going to get there. You mentioned Omaha and other places that have revitalized themselves. You might be looking at an end product. What were the steps going back in history? I've done research over the last 45 years in Baltimore and gone from a pitiful place, areas that were absolutely hideous, abandoned, and turned it into places that look like Georgetown. In fact, Georgetown looked like that. And I've got slides and research that taken along those step-by-step process. But they had a plan. And our present general plan was done very hastily with very little citizen input. It was a means to an end. But I absolutely agree with you that we need to have a general plan update. And it's not cheap. but we need to commit ourselves to that because developers look for that. They look for a city that has a plan because a developer is not going to come to a city in which that person doesn't know what's going to take place next to them. In other words, you think about making deals with developers. Well, the point is the person making the deal may leave after a year. And where's the a good developer, a reputable developer, is not going to commit millions of dollars unless they see that there's a recognized, and it's an official plan passed by the council. And basically it's a legal document that you will go by. And the development code really needs to be amped up to that. Now, getting back to the issue at hand tonight, Mr. Haney, is it Haney? Hartley. The applicant.
Howie.
Howie. Mr. Howie has been working on this for some time. He's a small businessman. He's exactly the person that we want to attract to San Bernardino. And again, I'm so pleased that Mr. Nichols is satisfied that we can allow him to proceed with this project, and I think it's a good project with the changes that we do have, and so I'm going to vote in favor of this. And I think it would be a real misfortune if we were to, back away and to not permit him to move ahead with this project, because an empty building is worse. It's a blight on the neighborhood, and I'm so pleased that we're working on the neighborhood, not just this particular project. And again, we do need a vision, we do need a plan, but I think that Mr. Howie, his project is a good one. It's going to improve the neighborhood. We can make a few improvements of the conditions of approval. And so, again, I'm going to be voting in favor of it.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mulvihill. Mr. Charette.
Very quick comment. I'm not going to support this, and I'm not going to support it because I think we're missing the biggest thing about, we're talking about commercial areas. I've been around long enough that I remember when all those commercial buildings down in that area were full. They were full of businesses, and they aren't anymore. And I think that's where our major problem is that we don't have a business community in this community anymore. They've exited, they've left, and we need to be doing what we can. I know we're down in housing, not only in San Bernardino, but in the state of California, severely down in housing. But I think these one-off projects are really not exactly the way to go. We've got to be doing something to entice business to come back in and fill some of these vacant buildings. I don't have a problem with vacant buildings or vacant lots if they're vacant and we hold the owner's feet to the fire to keep them maintained and until something really viable comes along. But the biggest problem in this community is the exodus of business and not enticing business back. And business is not going to be coming back if we're doing these one-off infills. I think I agree with Henry and everybody else that's talked about the general plan update that needs to be done. And I think I'm not suggesting that we stop all progress, but we pretty much need to really stop a lot of what we're doing until we've done what we need to entice business to come back and fill those vacant buildings. Dentists, doctors, lawyers, others, they're not here. They've gone. That's one reason Arrowhead Country Club is no longer a private country club. We are not able to sustain a country club in this town. And that's the problem. That's where we need to go. And we need to be turning this city into a world-class city that people want to come and open up their law offices, their doctor's offices, their dentist's offices, their engineering firms, and other things. And that's where I think we're missing the boat. And until I can be assured that we're going to be able to do that, I'm not real hep on these projects.
Just to respond to that, I think part of the reason why the staff recommended this project is, as we talk to developers about the ultimate build-out of the downtown, and there are a lot of great, they were referred to this evening, the Heritage Building and in fact, the Woolworth Building. It's all covered up now, but you can still see the facade that's behind there, and certainly someone hopefully will want that building and reuse that in a way that's productive. But in order to attract the kinds of businesses to the downtown and reuse those historic buildings and other buildings, we really need to create the atmosphere and have rooftops here that help support those businesses. As we talk to developers and businesses, they recognize that there are thousands of people that come to the downtown, and professionals, people that do earn good livings, council members and city staff members at government buildings, the county offices, the courthouses, the Caltrans buildings, and those are a lot of people here that are during the day. But really, most developers and businesses say to us, but what's the nighttime population in the downtown like? And so we really are, through that project, and again, a better process would be to go through that general plan, but we were trying to do that adaptive reuse to try to bring the rooftops to the downtown to help support businesses coming in and hopefully create that activity in the downtown area at nighttime as well as the daytime.
I agree with all that, and my comment is that I don't think you're going to find any of the people that you just described in the downtown that work here during the day and leave are going to want to live in a development like this. I just don't see it. I really don't see it. And I think until we accept that fact, that we're going to have people working in the downtown and going home to Rancho Cucamonga.
All right, thank you. Let's conclude our comments. Ms. Ibarra.
I'd like to speak on this item. This item is in the second ward. I have been voicing against apartments in this area due to the crime. The businesses are leaving because of the crime. Homeowners are leaving because of the crime. College students can't find jobs here, so they go elsewhere. They're not happy with investing back into this community and finding a home here because of the crime. I did speak with Mr. Howie. I voiced them all our concerns that we've had. The main issue that we have in the second ward is crime, high-density housing. I would like to see townhomes, find a way for people to become even homeowners. So I don't mind being part of the general, fixing the general plan, but converting a commercial building into housing. The problem I had, and I saw the design, it does not look much different than what it looks like right now. If it had a better facade that would attract those middle income or college students to live there, I would be all for it. But bottom line, the problem is the crime. Until we're able as a city to tackle the crime in our city, we're not going to be able to bring in businesses. We're not going to be able to bring in home ownership. I myself, I live in a block with 4 apartment complexes. There's been a house, a complete single-family residence that was rehabbed. It's been on the market since October. It took them a year to rehab that home from inside out, and they can't sell it. Why? As soon as the realtor shows up or the clients show up, all they see are the candles where the shooting happened on my block. They see the apartments, and they turn back around and they leave. So until our city tackles the crime, I really don't want us to keep pushing and doing conditional use permits on commercial buildings to become housing, apartments, especially when there's no change in the facade already of that building. I applaud the work that Mr. Howie did on G and 9th, but if you look at the project that he did on G and 9th, it does not compare to this proposed plan that he has. I would like to see the vacant lots, maybe building townhomes there. I would encourage those. But apartments, especially 15 dwelling units, I have a 6-unit. I think the other is a 5-unit. And there's no property manager. It's taken me over 2 years to make sure that the crime-free housing is enforced in that area, and even till now, we're still seeing the people going into that neighborhood, scoping out our homes. So, Mr. Howie, please do not be discouraged. I love what you did on G and 9th, but this project, I tonight, I can't support it. I'm willing to do a general plan. I'm willing to work with you. Maybe we can locate other lots for you. But this one, I do have a vision of bringing in businesses into our city. I do see a vision of the young people coming back into town, investing here, and creating their futures in this city. Right now, Second Ward, there was something that struck me the wrong way when I spoke with Mr. Howie, that there's a plan to convert most of Second Ward into multi-housing units. That was, I don't know who, if it was a staff member who mentioned it or how that came about, but to me, it struck a very, very negative chord. To have multi-housing all over the Second Ward, I walked the Second Ward during the campaign season, and like Henry Nickel, he didn't feel safe in some neighborhoods. I had to walk during the daytime. There were some apartments that you could not even walk into. And why? Maybe because of the same situation. There are 15 units, and they don't have to have a property manager on site. I do commend his efforts. He was trying to work with the community, but I know where the Matleys live, and I believe it's within the 500 radius. It's less than a block away from where they live. So I won't be able to support it today, but I am willing to work with Mr. Howie to keep working on plans on how to better develop that corner. I know he already has 1595 approved, and it's going to be almost the same. I believe 9 units on 1595 North Arrowhead. So that, once again, dense housing, crime, those are the issues we need to tackle in our city. I did promise public safety. Until we're able to tackle that issue at hand, then I'll be more welcoming to bringing in more apartments. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Well, Councilmember Ibarra, I really appreciate your passion. In my conversations with you, I understand you walked your district, and I appreciate that. On to the call for the question. Madam City Clerk, would you please read the motion, including the substitute motion that Councilman Nickel and Mulvihill seconded?
I don't believe there was a substitute motion. What I heard was that Mr. Nickel wanted the city manager to come back on January 16th, but I didn't take that as part of the motion.
Well, I will move to approve this,
Right.
contingent upon the city manager bringing an item back for us to consider regarding a general plan amendment, and to be on January 16th, and begin the process of putting in place now the process that's needed, and understanding the process that we need to engage in to begin that general plan amendment.
To be clear, Councilmember Nickel, does your motion also include the amended condition of approval to include the requirement of an on-site property manager?
Absolutely.
Thank
Must
you.
have on-site.
Do I hear a second?
I've got a question. I think we've got two issues here. We've got this project, and we've got the discussion of the general plan. If we vote against this proposal, we're voting against the general plan, too. Update.
Sorry, I think it's appropriate to split these two issues out.
Sure, let's do that. Why don't we do this? Why don't we
take the
items to separate them? So let's first off move for the general plan amendment to come back to the January 16th. Is that?
It's a general plan update. General plan update.
Yeah, general plan update. And here's the thing. I will be voting no on this unless we vote yes on that general plan update.
Okay, so my understanding is that Mr. Mulvihill did second that.
Yes.
With the general plan update coming back on January 16th.
Exactly.
To be clear, what we're taking action on tonight is just to request the city manager bring an update before council, to bring a process forward of how we would proceed with so that would be just requesting an agenda item for the future. Just
Process
to be clear, you're not
and
taking
budget.
Yes, but no formal action tonight on a general plan, just to be clear.
Correct. Come back on January 16th.
So that's the first vote.
It's the first vote.
If you'd like me to clear the votes on
We're voting on bringing back a general plan amendment.
an item regarding a general plan amendment.
Then, yeah, I'm supporting that.
Madam City Clerk, let's do this so we can
Let's
proceed
do
and
a
move
voice
on.
vote on
Let's
that.
do a voice vote on the first item, and then we'll So, Madam City Clerk, if you would call the roll, please, and members
So,
cast their vote.
This is specifically regarding the city manager coming back on January 16th with an item on the general plan amendment. Mr. Number one. Number two, Ms. Ibarra. Mr. Charette. Mr. Nichol.
Yes.
Ms. Richard. Mr. Mulvihill. The item passes 6-0.
Very good. So direction is given to our city manager to provide and report back with the budget amendment on January 16th. The second item is the floor motion here before us for consideration. As I understand, the on-site management is to be incorporated in that. Do I hear a motion?
I will move to...
Very good. The clerk will call the roll on that, or if you'd like to electronic register, it's your pleasure.
Everybody else has voted electronically except for Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Ibarra. And this is for the floor motion with the addition of adding a on-site property.
The thing is, I never had my question answered by the city manager. What is the turnaround to get the discrepancies between the developer and the requests of the residents?
Actually, I did answer that. I suggested that the item that we recognized was the on-site manager. If there are other issues you'd like us to explore, we would certainly go out and meet with the community and ask the developer to do that with us, and we could bring that back at the January 2nd meeting. We would just need it a couple of weeks. It is the holidays, but we would return at the next meeting if you want.
We would have to continue this item, right?
Yes, yes.
That's what I would like to do. I would like to continue this item.
Is that your substitute
motion? That is my
Mr.
substitute
Sanchez?
motion, that we continue this until we can come to a resolution on the discrepancies between...
So there's a substitute motion on the floor made by Mr. Sanchez to continue the item until 2 weeks, as indicated by our city manager. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. The clerk will call the roll, please, on that matter.
Okay. So the motion to continue was made by Mr. Sanchez, a second by Mr. Charette? No. No? Who was the second? I'm sorry, Mr. Mulvihill. Mr. Sanchez?
You get us under the bright
yes.
lights, and all of a sudden we go
Ms.
crazy.
Ibarra? Yes. Mr. Charette? Mr. Nichol?
Yes.
Ms. Richard? And Mr. Mulvihill? The item passes 6-0, and that is to continue it to January 2nd.
Very good. I want to, in our closing remarks, again, I want to thank our city council staff. Thank you, Jorge, Renee, Cheryl, Valerie. Thank you for making all of these accommodations. I also want to express my deep appreciation to our city manager, Andrea. Thank you so much. You've been a delight to work with, and I just really appreciate you working behind the scenes with our council staff to accommodate us. All the little special requests. I appreciate you and your staff. I appreciate our staff. Thank you, our city staff. Thank you for making all of that. Also, Mr. Moreno, Rick Moreno Jr., thank you for all of your janitorial services here to get this place spick and span. We appreciate it. I also want to recognize and invite others for my first Afterglow. My wife and her family business has provided donuts in the back on the table, so please grab one on the way out. I want to recognize Manna Donuts on 40th Street. Thank you, Manna Donuts, for sponsoring tonight's hosted donut bar in the back, and we appreciate that. This meeting will recess until Friday, December 21st at our meeting on December...
We're just going to adjourn tonight's meeting. We'll call a special election for that meeting on Friday.
A special what?
A special meeting. Special meeting on Friday. We'll call it... Just need to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Meeting, so you won't be adjourning to it. It'll be called as a special meeting.
Is there any... Well, I'd like to recess until 10 o'clock on Friday. Is there any objection to that from the council?
We've dealt with all action on tonight's agenda.
If there's no objection, I'd like to recess the meeting until...
Wait, I want a point of order. What's that all about? What does that even mean? for 2 days. What's that mean?
I mean, the result is the same. The recessing tonight's meeting with no action remaining, the actions for tonight's meeting are already concluded. We've got instructions to post a special meeting agenda tomorrow morning before 10 a.m. in order to provide for a special meeting to be held on Friday morning at 10 a.m. That would have new items.
I'd like to take a 5-minute recess. This meeting will recess for 5 minutes. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.